Awesome meeting room of Town Hall in Orleans. Like I said, it's March 18th. It's 5 p.m. thereabouts. On the top of our agenda are the Zoom instructions if you'd like to join us virtually. Also, the dial-in by phone information and the webinar ID is there as well. So I will call us to order. Select board members around the table include Andrea Shaw-Reed, Michael Herman, myself, your chair, Kevin Galligan, and Vice Chair Meph Runyon. Town staff, Town Manager Kim Newman, Assistant Town Manager Mark Reel, Special Projects Coordinator in front of us, Mike Solitro, and the most excellent support staff in the Executive Administration area is Molly Bates and Laura St. John Dupuis. Anyone on by Zoom? I see the Academy Awards. Attorney North, Karis North, our town council, welcome. And we have one motion, please, someone?
Mr. Chair, I move that we go into executive session to consider the purchase, exchange, lease, or value of real property located on Eldridge Parkway, and that you declare an open meeting may have detrimental effect on the negotiating position of this public body, and that then we reconvene an open session.
Moved and
Second.
seconded. And as chair, I do declare that an open meeting may have a detrimental effect on the negotiating position of this public body. So I'll call for vote by roll call. All in favor?
I, Andrea Reed.
I'm Michael Herman.
Aye, Kevin Galligan.
I'm Meph Runyon.
We are going into just out of executive session. We have nothing to report. We do have some folks still joining the meeting, but we can start with some preliminaries in terms of, Michael, would you read the preamble, please?
Sure, Mr. Chair. We acknowledge with respect that we are inhabiting the traditional lands of the Wampanoag peoples who have always existed here. We value their roles as past, present, and future guardians of this land.
Great. So next up in the order of our printed agenda are announcements. These are intended to be announcements from the board or staff. Anyone from the board have any announcements? Andrea, please.
I have two. One is that both the Affordable Housing Trust and the Council on Aging have active vacancies that, and are seeking new members. Both boards are moving ahead very dynamically, and just so the public knows that we are seeking new members. The second one is I'm going to start crying. The second one is a very sad announcement. The town lost this week a Health and Human Services member who was a child psychologist and a really beloved member of our community. Fran Kelly died earlier in the week, and condolences go to his partner, Ginny Farber, and to his daughters.
Thank you, Andrea. I'm taking a moment of silence because, as folks will remember, years ago we were asked to explore how to make Orleans a safer community, and Fran stepped right up. And
That's
it
right.
resulted in a great piece of work that we can all be proud of. Any other announcements? Okay, thank you, everybody. Moving on to item 5, public comment, folks. Ginny Farber, please. This is kind of an announcement and a public comment, right?
Thanks, Andrea. But I have good news and bad news. So today, I'm Ginny Farber. I'm chair of the Board of Water and Sewer. And today, the Board of Water and Sewer Commission certified substantial completion of Phase 2 Meeting House Pond Sewer Area.
Yay.
So it's being sent to the Board of Health right now. They will act tomorrow and issues order to connect. So that's been a long time coming and very good news. The second piece, which was done on the fly, was that the Board of Water and Sewer issued a statement today complying with DEP requirements for level 2 droughts and instituted mandatory water restrictions for that level 2 drought. These restrictions are for properties using public water supply and those with private wells, because, of course, all water comes from the same aquifer, the same lens. So last year, we started with level 1 drought restrictions that were okay, but we moved into level 2. This year, we're starting at level 2 and anticipating that we're going to move to level 3, so they're a little stricter. And I'm just going to run through them quickly and then sit down. Between May 1 and December 31st, all non-essential outdoor water is restricted. This means that the following uses of water are not allowed: watering lawns and gardens by sprinklers or automatic irrigation systems, whether you have a private well or not. Washing vehicles at home. Washing exterior surfaces such as driveways, sidewalks, decks, or other hard surfaces. The following uses are allowed between the hours of 5 p.m. and 9 a.m. Irrigation to establish a new lawn, though I ask you not to do that, or new plantings only during May and September. Watering of gardens, flowers, and ornamental plants by handheld hoses or drip irrigation only. Watering of lawns with a handheld hose. The only exception to the list of non-essential water use is the irrigation of parks and recreation facilities. This is allowed between 5 p.m. and 9 a.m. This info will be in your April 1 water bill. We're hoping it's not mailed on April 1. goes into effect on May 1st. We are going to be handing out flyers at town meeting, water sticker office, everywhere else we can, and just wanted everybody to have a heads up so that they can save the money of hooking up their irrigation systems. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Jenny. Appreciate it. Anyone else for public comment, please?
You'd miss me if I wasn't here.
Okay.
That's you, sir.
Ken Heritage, come on up.
This walk gets longer every time.
Good to see you.
Thank you. I've taken your hint, Kevin. Instead of ad-libbing, I'm going to read it today. I'm here to talk about the fire rescue station warrant article. As badly as we need a new station, an up or down vote on about $60 million is likely to fail. At this cost, the tax impact for a median price home will be about $700 a year for 30 years. If the vote fails, the town will be left with more delay, more cost, and capital project compression. To avoid this and hopefully get something passed, I suggest the following. The warrant article be based on a base bid value sufficient to build a 39,000 square foot station to existing codes and with all the attributes required to perform the services intended. A base bid should not include the funds to build a net zero station as currently required in the charge to the Fire Rescue Committee. I would suggest that we get the base bid, as I've stated, and then if that passes, there could be other votes as alternatives. Perhaps one or two feature blocks that would involve the items necessary to progress towards or even reach net zero. But trying to do this in one vote is a tremendous risk to the town. As I expect you are aware, the town of Orangeville, Ontario, planned a net zero requirement for their 29,000 square foot station. However, when the federal funding didn't come through as they had anticipated, they commissioned a paid study to compare non-net zero with net zero. This resulted in a big surprise for them when it turned out that to go from the most modern codes to the net zero code would be an additional 25.5%. The study results, if they should apply to Orleans, even roughly, the specified net zero, etc. design will be at a premium of millions and millions, and they're millions that we simply can't afford. The net zero would be a nice thing to have, but it isn't going to save lives, and it isn't going to get the station any better service. Thank you.
Thank you, Ken. Any other public comment, please? Please, David.
David Abel. I might sort of bookend or tangentially to the two previous speakers. I'll just read it. There's a lot to say about the sewers, but I'll keep it brief. As I look more closely at the Mill Pond issue, I realize we've come to view the issue as a sewer problem when it is a nitrogen problem. The question should not be how we build sewers, but how we most effectively and affordably reduce nitrogen at its source. Regarding Mill Pond, I agree with the WMAC recommendations that PRB and oysters are probably reasonable initiatives as bridge and interim strategies until implementation of permanent reduction of nitrogen from the surrounding homes. However, the last recommendation, the adoption of a moratorium on building ADUs to only sewered areas, brought me up short. And I'm not sure if the select board adopted that portion, but that's why I'm addressing it. I don't know whether the select board adopted that recommendation, but I encourage you to reject it as it does not recognize that urine diversion and/or compost toilets are effective and extremely cost effective. The town's consultant, Mike Giggy, states as much in his memorandums. Compost toilets are an approved use by the DEP. Falmouth and just recently Martha's Vineyard are in urine diversion pilot programs now. We do not have the luxury of waiting for Falmouth, and Orleans should invest in its own pilot program. At a time of extreme housing scarcity, we should encourage the use of these alternatives regardless of whether sewer is planned for that area or not. If you haven't already, I encourage you to join one of the VIP, get it? VIP, there's tours, not sure if you heard of that, of a beautiful new modular ADU with a Phoenix compost and urine diversion toilet in Mashpee at a cost of $10,000, which is far less than sewer or septic. I'll note that we've had Representatives Hadley Luddy, Kip Diggs, Steven Ziaros, if I didn't garble his name, as well in person, as well as Joe Moakley's aide on one of these tours together, and they all expressed strong support for this. Feel free to see me afterwards if anyone is interested in going and or in joining a regional working group working on innovative wastewater solutions. Secondly, I'm far more concerned about the path we are on to sewering the town. The total cost is projected to be over $1 billion. Urine diversion and compost toilets are a viable option which the town has not taken advantage of, instead rejecting them in favor of the sewers, and the costs are staggering, which I don't think we've grappled with fully. To illustrate, Phase 3, just as an illustration, is projected to cost approximately $40 million. If you add engineering and the cost for owners to hook up their homes, you're approaching high 40s, 48 million perhaps, which is about $192,000 per home. Alternatively, if you'd assume $20,000 per home to install urine diversion, it's about $8.8 million. The point is to illustrate the massive difference between these two figures. It's $39 million for one phase, and we have 16 phases with 13, I believe, to go, or 12. Sewers take decades to build. Our plan is many decades out, and you don't get results for another 1 or 2 decades after that. UD could be implemented town-wide in single-digit years, depending on how we approach this. Sewers require expensive and ongoing maintenance and replacement costs and use large volumes of drinking water, which we just talked about water, millions and millions of gallons every year in a region which is regularly experiencing drought. Given the opportunities available to address our nitrogen problem far cheaper and far, far faster, the town should pause to take a breather to reevaluate our path and the massive costs needed to support sewers, and instead make our own investment in a serious urine diversion pilot program. Thank you.
Thanks, David. Anyone else for public comment? Scott, please.
Good evening, Scott Zanke, Don Road. One comment on the water. Ginny, what are we doing with all the pools that are going to be filled in the next couple of months? So that's water usage, just as sure as irrigation. Looking for a little clarification. I realize you don't have to give any answers, but at the last meeting with Finance, Mark, you made a couple of comments on the two-tier tax system. If I heard you correctly, it will be in the warrant book, but it will not be acted upon. No?
We don't comment back, but
I know.
we do have our warrant review coming up, including a citizen petition.
Yeah,
So
correct.
stick by.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else for public comment? Anyone on by Zoom, Peggy?
No hands raised.
Okay, we'll close public comment. Thanks, everybody, for those. And we are way late. I'm not sure if Verizon or Eversource, you're here. My apologies, but I will begin the reading of the public hearing on Verizon's request. So, Town of Orleans, Verizon poll hearing, Eli Rogers Road, on Wednesday, March 18th at 5:30. I would just note for the record, it's 6:04 p.m. in the Nauset Meeting Room of Orleans Town Hall at 19 School Road, Orleans. In accordance with Mass General Law, Chapter 166, Section 22, a public hearing will be held on a request submitted by Verizon New England, Inc., for permission to lay and maintain underground conduits and manholes with the wires and cables to be placed therein under the surface of Eli Rogers Road, Orleans, Mass. 02653. Proposed work consists of placement of one 2-inch conduit from an existing pole to one proposed new handhold. The work will be in accordance with Plan Number 1A, as in Alpha, 7A as in Alpha, 6E as in Elephant, T as in Tom. Filed with the Town Manager's Office and dated May 17, 2025. Copies of the plan can be viewed in the Town Manager's Office during normal business hours. Any interested party is invited to attend the public hearing. Public hearing's open. In our packet, we have a write-up from Molly with the background, the comments that came in from Water, DPW, no comments or concerns from police or building, and we have the plan in front of us as well as the petition. Is anyone here from Verizon?
Yes, hello.
Hey, Matthew, please introduce yourself and just give us a quick rundown.
Sure. My name is Matthew Preco. I work for Network Building and Consulting, and I'm here tonight on behalf of Verizon New England. As outlined in the petition, Verizon is proposing to install approximately 650 feet of 2-inch conduit to handhole 1. I did want to specify that the conduit will continue from handhole 1 to the edge of Orleans Brewster. I'm sorry, in the neighboring town.
You're right, it is on the Brewster line, correct?
The Orleans Brewster boundary line, excuse me. During our analysis, we found that handhole 1 falls approximately at the boundary line, but I did want to mention that.
So you might have to visit Brewster too, but let's get Orleans done, right? All right, any questions of Matt from the board?
Other than double poles at a future conversation.
Matt, I'm sure you're aware of not only Orleans, but 350 other communities concerned about double poles in the Commonwealth, but that's in time for another day. All right, so just to read Water Department comments that if someone would make a motion to be sure they're incorporated in any motion, that when crossing water lines, cross at right angles, when running parallel to water mains, maintain 5 feet of separation, and DPW just reminded a road opening permit is required. But I was pleased to note all work proposed here is underground.
Mr. Chair, I move that we vote to approve the request for installation of approximately 650 feet of 2-inch conduit on the east side of Eli Rogers Road from existing utility pole number 7 to handhole 1, as presented on work order number 1A7A6ET, dated 5/17/25, and noting that all, when crossing water lines at right angles or running parallel to water mains, there need to maintain 5 feet of separation, and a work opening permit be required before work can take place on any road.
Moved and,
Seconded.
okay, so this is a public hearing. Before we actually vote, is there any public comment on this case? Peggy, anyone on Zoom?
No hands raised?
Okay, so we'll kind of do it out of order, but I'll take the motion to approve, and then we'll go back and close the public hearing. So all in favor of the motion?
Aye.
500, and could I get a motion to close?
So moved.
Moved and second and close the public hearing. All in favor?
Aye.
All right. Thank you, Matt.
Thank you very much.
Okay, have a good evening.
You as well.
All right, next is conduct committee interviews appointments. So first up is architecture review. Rich Morangel. Rich, come on up. Good to see you.
Good to see you guys.
Say a few words. Why do you like to join ARC?
I've been on the ARC in the previous
Yeah.
past as chairman for a number of terms, and I think 3 or 4, probably 8 years or something. So it's been a while since I've been on that committee. And Andrew Meow, who was on that, asked me if I would be like to come back again, be an alternative to fill out the committee. I guess they've been shy, a couple of people, for quite some time, and some architects. So I had other reasons for not wanting to be on the board until recently. And Andrew is, I've worked with Andrew, and pretty much he's the only one I know there now. But it's just good to keep aware of what's going on, and I know we have some new changes in zoning, and so I expect there'll be some interesting things that come up. Mostly signs we dealt with. So I'm hoping that we'll get some
Buildings.
buildings. that
No,
will-
it's, as Rich notes, and I don't know if everybody read chock-full town manager's report that came out the other day, but the Attorney General that reviews warrant articles did approve the overlay housing district downtown.
Yeah.
So that's where you will have some
Yeah,
applications to consider, I'm sure.
sure.
But any questions for Rich? Please, Matt.
More
Medford.
comment. I'm liaison to the Architectural Review Committee.
Yep. me too,
And
the
this
other
is
day.
a wonderful step to have Rich come and be on the committee.
Thank you.
Between Andrew Meow and Rich, the sort of professional
Yes.
help that committee needs is, I think, going to be provided. And so anyways, I would heartily support
Great.
this.
Thank you.
Just thrilled that you're back.
Thank you.
Absolutely. Sounds like a motion might be in order, someone.
Mr. Chair, I recommend that we appoint Rich, I'm going to mess up your name.
Morangel.
Thank you. Rich Morangel to the Architectural Review Committee as a regular member with the term ending June 30th, 2026.
Second.
Ending June 26th?
It's associate, it's associate.
Oh,
excuse me.
okay.
But it's ending 2028.
Yeah.
Oh.
6 was 6/30/28 was what I started to say.
Are you looking at the same in a packet? I'm seeing the request to make him a regular member with a term ending June 30th, 2028. Are you,
Below that, the vacancy
Did I
is,
put that wrong?
Associate,
It's
yeah.
associate member, sorry.
yeah,
okay,
Associate
You're
member,
right.
June
First.
30th, 2028.
Yes, so that was my correction.
okay. So we're clear
Associate
on-
member for June 30th, 2028.
Okay, good.
Second.
All right, all clear? All in favor?
Aye.
aye.
Thank you.
Thank you, Rich.
You
Good-
bet.
Great to see you. All right, next up is,
Sworn in.
I don't know if anybody knows this guy, Bob Rich.
Yeah, really.
Bob, you don't need an introduction, but please say a few words, why you want to come back and,
I've
Well-
been off the Water and Sewer Commission now for about half a year. I wasn't reappointed by the Board of Health. So I recently thought, I really want to get back on. And that's why I put in a citizen interest form to be appointed by the Board of Select
Board.
Select Board. I have a long history with water in the town. So what I bring as I come back onto the board, should that happen, is institutional memory, going back to the Water Advisory Board. And I also bring technical expertise. I have a Harvard PhD in geology and I'm well familiar with groundwater and related issues, groundwater chemistry, et cetera, et cetera. So it's kind of a natural place for me. And I'd like to come back, even though I've been there a lot.
thank you, Bob. Please, Michael.
Yeah, I mean, I know it hasn't been a year that he has been off, but I don't see that. I mean, I think we make an exception, so I just wanted to make sure.
Sure.
we're clear on that.
Add that.
Can I ask a question on that?
Yeah.
Did we consider the term limits for people that are appointed by other committees to be on there?
I don't remember that discussion.
I mean, it's in the
Policy.
policy, so you can refer back to it, but.
But also look who's
But again, we
rotating
can make
off.
the exception. I think I think what we're seeing, of course, is the generosity of Bob to come back is great, and that's okay with me. I just want to make sure it's clear and fair for everybody that they know that, and that,
So if someone wants to make a motion, might want to just say, and also appropriate to comply with the exception policy. Yeah.
Mr. Chair, I move that we appoint Robert Rich to the Board of Water and Sewer Commissions as an associate member with the term ending June 30th, 2028, as our appointee as opposed to a third board appointee, and in that way acknowledge the exception policy we have.
Perfect.
Second?
Moved and seconded. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Welcome back, Bob. And again, for Rich, Bob, Molly, you generally get
Sworn in.
inf-
Well versed, so I'm not gonna give him a packet, but you know you need to just sit down and be sworn in.
and Rich, you'll get a packet from Molly. Molly, thank you.
Yeah,
Clerk's
anytime.
office. Clerks.
All right, 4th of July Committee, do we have,
Dynamic duo.
yeah, exactly, the Cunninghams, Christy and Tom, great to see you.
Good to be
And
here.
as you're coming up, I'm liaison to 4th of July Committee. It's the best committee in town.
It's a fun.
Oh, I miss it.
It is a lot of fun, so just say a few words.
Yeah, we moved here full-time this summer. We've been summer residents, but now that we're here full-time, we wanted to get plugged in a little bit more, and we thought what better way than a fun community event, and we're big fans of the parade anyway, so it's a great way to just get involved.
Awesome. Tom?
Yeah, I just echo everything Christy said. We are, happy to get involved. We moved here from Wellesley. I was involved with the town government in Wellesley, so
Nice.
don't get any ideas yet. But, yeah, so we're excited to just start small
Awesome.
and work our way up.
Great.
And just is there a Molly question here.
Yeah, husband and wife.
Well, no, not that. It's that there's one regular seat and 3 associate seats available.
Yeah,
So one of these has to be a regular, one needs to be an associate.
fight for it.
You can
take
be
it.
the regular.
Not much different.
No.
Yeah,
Great.
one board
Exactly.
member and one not, but to participate in all discussions.
Yeah.
Terrific.
That's great.
All right. Any questions of Christy or Tom?
Other than thank you.
Yeah,
Welcome.
exactly.
Thank you
Thank
very
you.
much.
I
All
would
right.
make a motion,
Please.
Mr. Chair, to appoint, I'll do it separately.
Yep.
Appoint Christy Cunningham, I believe, to a regular member, term ending June 30th, 2028, and Thomas Cunningham to an associate member, term ending June 30th, 2028, both to the 4th of July Committee.
Moved and seconded. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you.
And Molly's giving you a packet. I'll tell you, we're getting good around here, Molly. Thank you so much, you guys.
And just so you guys know, 2 more 4th of July interviews next week
Awesome.
Awesome.
on the 25th, so they'll have a
A
Oh,
full
good.
complement.
Yeah, constituted committee.
Great.
Great.
All
Yes.
right.
CO.
So
Trust.
it's just about 6:20. I'm just being mindful of the public hearing at 6:45, so we are probably going to jump around, but let's talk about the annual town meeting warrant review and citizen petition in particular. Kind of looking at Mark Reel?
Would you like Karis to start with that, since
Yeah.
probably makes sense?
Please. So Town Council Attorney Karis North is with us by virtual Zoom. And Karis, we do have kind of the list of index, if you will, but also we have the citizen petition. And I know you've taken a look and offered some thoughts. I'll just leave it at that. So we're all ears.
Great, thank you. There should be a memo in your packet from me about the citizens petition articles that were received. There are 2. I want to start with just some general information about citizens petitions. So under the general laws, all citizens petitions that are received must be inserted in the warrant. But that doesn't, and then ultimately have to be voted on by town meeting, but that doesn't mean that that requires positive main motion. A warrant article generally shouldn't be withdrawn, and it's definitely disfavored with respect to citizens petitions because 1, the mandatory shall, and 2, all of the petitioners would have to be consulted when withdrawing a petition. So if a petitioner has second thoughts about their article, they could certainly withdraw a positive main motion or move for no action or indefinite postponement. But they can't just pull their article. Town meeting has to actually address it and have some sort of vote on it. So that's just some general background. Then on the 2 citizens petitions. The first one is untitled, but it's a citizens petition to create a position called Assistant Council on Aging Director. And having reviewed this article and the charter, I've concluded that the article is one of what's we call under town meeting time and rules doubtful legality for multiple reasons, so it can be ruled out of order, which means you can't put a positive main motion on the floor, and it would have to only be a motion for indefinite postponement or no action. And the reasons for that determination are several. It asks town meeting to create this new position, but town meeting doesn't have the authority to create a new position within the town. That authority lies solely with the town manager under the charter. The town manager is the chief administrative officer of the town, is responsible for administering and coordinating all the employees, is responsible for appointments of all positions, is responsible for administrative organization and reorganization of departments, which includes creating new positions in the department, and then also responsible for the day-to-day administration of the personnel system. So town meeting cannot direct the town manager to do something that is within the town manager's duties under the charter. That most they could, perhaps advise on what they think the benefit of this position is, but they can't direct the town manager to do something that's within their charter responsibilities. The other issue is that the article talks about a salary, but has no funding source for that appropriation, and also talks about potentially calling an override, but town meeting doesn't have the authority to call an override. That is solely under the general laws, the authority of the select board. And it's unclear whether the number that's put for the request for the appropriation is even sufficient to cover the petition. So for both the structural and organizational reasons and the financial reasons, it's my conclusion that that citizen's petition is out of order and should not be subject to a positive main motion on the floor of town meeting. And I'm happy to answer any questions.
Great, and I know we're just talking solely about these citizen petition articles, which, as you said, we're welcome to receive, review, but folks, if you didn't catch our previous meeting, we did as a board vote to advance this position, subject to also adding an override to support it. Right. So again, from a standpoint of the desire and urging of this, the select board was, and we've known about this for years. The need has existed. It's basically, there's not a lot of money in the well to fund it right now, unless we do an override. So that's just a little background in case felt that what town council's saying is being out of order. I think the intent and desire is good, and we support it in every way we can. So, any questions for Karis other than what I went through? All right, Karis, the next one is, please, Michael.
What happens when it comes up onto the town floor?
Yeah.
What's the process?
So if the moderator looks to you, because you'll be there, I'm sure, town council, and says, what do I do with this? Instead of saying, look at the tape of March 18th, what will you tell town moderator?
I would tell the town moderator, and I would actually hope to meet with the town moderator before town meeting to have these, to work through these questions, and have them prepared. But I would tell them that it's out of order and explain why it's out of order, and would do that again in public, in front of the body, so that the body can hear the basis for my recommendation to the moderator for a ruling.
Great. Good. Okay. All right. Moving on to petition number 2.
So petition number 2 asks for a resolution on the development of a long-range capital plan and preparation for a nominal residential exemption. So first of all, this only seeks a resolution anyway, so there's no mandatory action. The article seeks really the sense of town meeting on the question of a long-range capital plan and then purchasing software to prepare for a residential tax exemption. The petition also impedes on if it were something more than a resolution, impedes on the powers of the town manager and the select board in its supervision of the town manager, and it really doesn't provide any information on this long-term plan and how that fits within other long-term planning with respect and in Orleans. So it again, there's not a lot here, and it's really you know, long-range planning is again part of the job of the town manager and the select board, not necessarily the job of town meeting. With respect to directing the town manager to purchase equipment, there is no appropriation requested at all for that equipment spend. It also talks about software and equipment, but doesn't include installation, training, and so there's the necessary appropriation isn't there. It's probably not broad enough, and there's no source for any of the funds that would be needed. So the appropriation piece sort of fails because it's not fully fleshed out with everything you need to vote on an appropriation at town meeting. Then the question of the residential exemption itself is not a question within the within the discretion of the town manager. So that's actually a town meeting question or a board of assessors question, and they would at least have to make a recommendation. So again, this is essentially a question that would be advisory and not mandatory. So for this one, I would want the moderator to explain that to town meeting before they took a vote, that, you know, what they're voting on is really, you know, a sense of town meeting that they would like some sort, this particular kind of long-range capital planning, and they would like, you know, a residential tax exemption, but there's nothing in the warrant article that mandates action by the town at this point in time.
Great. And just for the board, I did invite the petitioner. He has another meeting right now, but he will be at our meeting next week. So we can relay this as well as hear from him as well, which is really the best way. You know, anyone thinking about a petition in the future, please come talk to us. I mean, really, it's helpful.
Right, and I think we also need to add, just for clarity, that council's review of these articles is for the select board, not for the petitioner. There's been some questions about that, about why they couldn't have been reviewed in advance so that they could be. That's not something that we do. They are reviewed to guide us, right, about them, so.
Yeah, and if you don't mind, Kim, I'll just briefly add so everyone is clear. I do not review citizens petitions for anyone because, in any of my communities, because my client is the town, and I have to advise the town, the select board, the town manager, the moderator, and advising the person drafting the citizens petition would be a conflict of interest that I can't engage in the course of my representation to the town.
Any questions for Karis on this one? Okay. Karis, thanks so much. Really appreciate that.
You're very welcome.
Yep. Kim or Mark, anything you might want to do in terms of the overall article review at this point?
Well, I'm wondering if you have an article that you want Karis to weigh in on potentially, or if there's, you know, or any.
Well, there's a couple of articles.
Take them out of order.
We've essentially, Karis and I have been working together on starting the review of articles. You've heard me in the past talk about a couple of the articles in the consent calendar that I've had questions about the need for. So Karis and her team are looking into that. We're looking at the capital budget article and doing that a bit differently than last year. You know, we're learning from experience, and so I have a sample of how we're thinking about doing it. I feel like it may be a bit of more of a conversation than the time we have for it, which we can maybe push off to later on. And then there's a couple of articles that I'd like to ask the board to consider to add to the consent calendar, which is the 2 bylaw amendments, if the board is choosing to place those, as well as, so that's 32, 33, and 34, which is establishing a revolving fund. Something to consider.
And Karis, that's, I'll say, not a legal term, but is it kosher to put all those, and for anybody listening, I mean, the more we can put in the consent calendar means we take one vote that covers currently 11, but what you're saying now could, in fact, cover 14 articles with one vote. So for those bylaw-related tweaks, we could do that as well?
Yes, that's fine.
Awesome. I'm looking at Matt. He's been a champion of this.
Yeah, I'm all for the consent calendar, but
Exactly.
in the past, I believe we have been, we were told that you could not put financial articles into the consent calendar. And I guess that's,
I mean, they've always been financial articles in there, at least the past couple of meetings. The three that I'm asking the board to consider for the consent calendar are not
right.
financial. Just, they're amendments to the general bylaws.
Mr. Chair?
Please.
Some of the, like the dog licensing one is to move us to state standards, but we don't have the actual language of it yet.
Right, we're working on language for that article.
I mean, I don't care where it is on the warrant, we just want to see the language.
Right.
Yep.
And the alternative flow could be if any one person, say it numbers 14 articles in consent, and someone stands up, wants to pull it,
Right.
it will stand alone, right, Karis?
That's correct. If
Right.
you get a vote of, I think it's 5 in your town meeting, can pull it from the consent calendar.
Right.
Yeah, no, it helps town
Yeah,
meeting.
it's,
Want to see the language before we vote to put it
exactly,
in.
yeah.
Yeah, and I would say I'm not asking the board to consider placement this evening
Good.
of any.
That's fine. We're meeting next week and the week after. So,
So you're thinking 32 through 34 are going to move to the consent calendar?
that'd be great.
Yeah, it would be great.
I would also add, just while we have short time here, the water quality testing and monitoring article, Article 28, may be broken out depending on funding sources. Just putting that out there as a
Okay.
thought.
And, Mr. Chair,
Please, go ahead.
that's where I was hoping Karis could help us if questions come up about our relationship with Baker's Pond and Brewster.
Yes, and George is here to talk about
Right.
the Brewster question.
Come on up, George.
We've heard it, but the public may not.
Right.
I'll make it quick for your time.
That's
but,
fine.
You know, we, the past water quality chairman and myself met with Town of Brewster, with their water quality committee. Nice cordial meeting about Baker's Pond and alum treatment. Actually, let me take 10 seconds to hand out a map.
Yeah, it was in our.
I think the key question here, according to this map, only a small portion of Baker's Pond is actually in the town of Brewster. And if you turn to the other side of the map, there's a topo, a bathymetric map, excuse me, that demonstrates that that area is less than 15 feet deep. That's kind of the standard for where you do an alum treatment. So this kind of says to us, there would be no actual alum treatment within the town of Brewster. Therefore, Brewster has said, they don't oppose the treatment, but they would not wish to participate in the funding. And so I did further speak with a DEP analyst on this this week, just to kind of see if Baker's Pond has anything different. She indicated it would be viewed very similar to Crystal Lake and Pilgrim Lake. No red flags. It's a tried and true treatment that is, in my mind, a good short-term solution for Orleans.
Okay. Questions of the board? Go ahead, Michael.
Just thank you for checking that out, and
Certainly.
appreciate it.
Okay.
And again, the state, other than DEP, don't they have an interest in use here and regulation, fish and wildlife?
There's a Fisherman's Landing. So
Right.
when you file a petition with a notice of intent with the CONSCOM, the state is notified. All those agencies get a chance to weigh in, and then DEP lets us know whether there's any additional permitting required.
Okay. So that would be just through the normal course of notice of intent,
Yes.
CONSCOM.
Right. I don't anticipate anything out of the ordinary with this one.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you, George.
Okay, glad to
For
help.
what it's worth, the
Please.
town of Sharon, one of my other clients, did an alum treatment on Lake Massapoag last year. So, they've been through the whole process as well.
Okay. Thank you, Karis.
Thanks.
All right. Thanks, George.
Thank you, George.
Yeah, please.
Mr. Yeah, I was, I growing up here, I always thought Baker's Pond was like mostly in Brewster, you know, that there was part of it in Orleans because of the road, and
Yeah.
we'd jump off of Route 6 and go jump in the pond after a soccer game instead of going home for a shower, and, you know, it's like, that was the part that was in Orleans, everything else was Brewster, but as it turns out, it's just the opposite, so appreciate your effort on that.
All right.
I can jump into the capital budget article. I think I have enough time in the next 10 minutes. So, as you may remember, last year at annual town meeting, we lumped all of the capital budget items into one motion. It created some confusion and some issues around the three-quarters vote and which items, you know, created that. So what we'd like to propose this fiscal year and for this annual town meeting is one article, and within that article, you have multiple motions. So in the sample I provided for you, it's not complete, but it shows you the idea of, you know, motion 20-1 would be the vehicles and equipment components, and it identifies the transfer of free cash and the raise and appropriate number. You'd have motion 20-2, which would be buildings and facilities, identifying the different funding sources for those. You would have, what we're also looking at is any items that would require a three-quarters vote per the charter would be it would be in their own motion. So you'd remove that concern about holding up other items that would only be a simple majority, and you'd have all those three-quarter items in their own motion.
Nice.
So additionally, related to this, there are two articles that I spoke with the finance director, Darren Tangeman, about. Article 24, which is the cleaning and rehabilitating of well number 7, and Article 23, which is the video conferencing technology, which is a capital-related item. We're looking to roll those into the capital budget articles, so those will likely disappear from your list.
Be embedded
They'll
as
be
a-
embedded in here.
Okay. Matt,
I just have a question. This sort of goes back to Article 20, but is there a mix in here of what is being funded out of stabilization and what is being funded from either free cash or borrowing?
So none of these are being funded out of stabilization.
The motions,
You will see in the motion, the transfer of free cash number and the amount being raised and appropriated.
Yep.
Which is what you were doing in the past. There was that raise and appropriate a number, put it in a stabilization account, but then take it right out immediately. So we're doing the same thing without the rigmarole of that.
I'm suggesting, Mark, on this table.
Yep.
I mean, because you love taking on more work, but at the bottom of the section, do a total.
Total, yeah.
That way,
Absolutely.
when people see the free cash and the appropriate, they tie out.
Yes, and you'll also have, what you don't see here yet is, the explanations will be with each of the motions related to each
project.
projects.
Nice.
So, threw this together right before the meeting, so you could have an idea of where we're going.
Nice.
And just one other question. Is there any other sort of mix of simple majority, three-quarter vote, two-thirds vote in here?
You would, so, for example, in the document you have in front of you, there's one of these fire rescue vehicles that does require a three-quarter vote. It would be taken out of this chart, and it would be in its own separate motion. So anything requiring a three-quarters vote will be removed from
And standalone.
this section, and you'll have it, yes, exactly. It'll have its own chart. You'll have a mix of vehicles and equipment, buildings and facilities, anything that is needing a three-quarters vote will be separated and won't jeopardize all of the other capital projects.
Keep asking them, F. Any other? by planning and asking these questions now makes for
Very
a much
helpful.
better town meeting.
Hear from you now.
Yes, exactly.
The only thing I would say, and I don't know if that would just make more questions than it would answer, but making it clear that these are not being funded out of the stabilization, that these are separate from the stabilization account might be helpful. I'm not sure, but people are kind of used to using the stabilization fund for a lot of this equipment.
Sure. The problem is we've never actually done it. but-
Right.
And you are going to vote on that,
Yeah.
right? So,
I mean, the other thing too is if you get a sense on the floor that someone's asking, say, you're assigned to read the motion, you can always,
Yeah.
you know, just to inform the body.
can we, before we're running,
Please, can-
or before our 4 or 5 minutes, I mean, it might come up during the budget anyway, but I think the Finance Committee has questions about the other debt exclusions. So do we want to touch upon that, especially like timing or necessity, the details of that?
Sure.
I'll look to you, or Darren, or Rich,
Well,
or.
I mean,
This is
th-
the
there
design.
were questions about Article 21 that were emailed to us from Elaine. So maybe, Elaine, could Elaine speak to
Sure.
the concerns?
You know, I might suggest, since that's not on the agenda for tonight, that we save that for a different meeting.
Okay.
Well, it's a
It's
warrant
related to
article.
the
It
warrant
is-
article.
But I think that our joint hearing is supposed to be just on the operational budget.
This would be talking to us on our capital budget
warrant
and warrant discussion.
Okay, so we have had a series, meeting, I think you all attended with Scott Walker, that started getting us thinking about the amount of debt that is accumulating. When we started hearing what the fire rescue station was going to be costing us, and Ken, to your point, it's not going to be $700 per median household, 1.467, it's going to be $1,050. That's what Scott quoted to us. So we're sitting there and saying, amongst ourselves, we have not talked about this in the committee as a whole, but I can tell you that there's a lot of undercurrent chatter about this, that if we want that fire rescue to go and not have massive debt, let me backtrack a little bit. We've been trying to get better information about how the sewer debt is going to be hitting each individual taxpayer. And we understand that, very tricky to pull all these figures together. We now have a new consultant, the Water North people, will have figures about how that debt will accumulate, but that's not going to be available until after May town meeting. That having been said, we know that Article 20, to fund Phase 4 design, okay, that I am sensing amongst the committee, again, haven't talked about it, but that we think this might be a time to say, pause on that level of capital investment, because right behind that, next year will come the next funding of the full amount of Phase 4, which is, I don't know, $35, $40 million. So we've got two things going on there, which is we want to see that fire rescue go, and we want to stretch out how the impact of this debt starts hitting in the early 2030s, 31.
So just on this, only because I was just, and I don't normally do this, so by referencing as if Molly or Laura, you need a copy of this to include as a reference, because it is being referenced in the board meeting.
So,
Rich,
again, because I was hearing on my committee, I sent an email out
Understood.
quickly. I want to get this out there before town meeting. This is not a subject we want to have on town meeting
so
floor.
the drivers of this came from Rich Waldo and our engineering consultant, AECOM. So we sent an email right off to both Rich and AECOM to see if, within the overall scheme of what they need in terms of resources, could we keep Phase 4 on track with a deferral? And I'll just say, we have done this in the past. So fingers crossed, they have a meeting tomorrow afternoon at 1. So it'll inform us in terms of the next go-around on updates. So heard it loud and clear. Let's see if we can bring it to ground.
So by no means are we saying stop wastewater
Understood.
at all, but the impact of these masses of debt, as Scott was describing it, got to start stretching it out. Yeah.
Andrea?
Could I also ask, I would like some accounting for any debt that's rolling off, so that there's some cushion in terms of, because it's not all just piling
And
on.
I think once we get to our joint hearing,
Yeah.
Darren's going to
Great.
That's
cover
fine.
Scott is here as well. He
Perfect.
gave an excellent presentation to the Finance Committee last week.
Fine. Again, I don't want the conversation on town meeting floor.
Yeah.
We want to get ahead of
that.
things.
We do. No, this is all good. So I think, Mark, Kim, we're good for
Warrant.
the warrant, and we could now turn to our joint public hearing. So, is there anything I need to read on this, or I'm looking at Molly?
Motions? Oops. Move to open the public hearing.
Okay. All right. So item 9, it's exactly 6:45. I'm just going to note on our agenda, we're opening a joint public hearing between the Select Board and the Finance Committee to continue discussion on the fiscal year 2027 town operating budget. And Elaine, you might like to call your body to order?
Yep, I'm calling the March 18th joint public hearing of the Finance Committee and Select Board. And I'd like each of our members to introduce themselves and also say that Tony wanted to make some public comments from the Finance Committee. So, Mr. Pearl? Oh, yes, let's all
All right.
introduce ourselves. That's what I said first. Who's here?
Alice Thomason, 25 Blueberry Island Road.
Tony Pearl.
David Abel.
Nick Athanasiou.
And Elaine Baird. I don't know if any of our committee members are online.
Peggy, could you check and see, are there any other
I think John Cooper
Finance Committee members
was going to be zooming
by
in.
Zoom? Not hearing, so we'll just be on the lookout. So, Elaine, you wanted to allow?
So, Tony, go ahead.
Yeah. Peter and I and several other members of the committee, in going through budgets, have noticed there are not many places we can find reductions of expenses or elimination of activities that maybe we don't need anymore. And I wanted to ask Kim if she would think about rewarding employees who come up with those ideas with, for instance, a free dinner with a spouse or a friend and paying for the babysitter or a day off, and then publicize it so that there is a thought among employees, even though we've deferred a lot of maintenance, we still have to get some savings. And in my career, my company, we add the little savings, a few $1,000s here or there, added up. And if we publicize that, I think the voters will begin to understand it's just not going to increase. That the town employees are thinking about saving things. So that was a request that you think about.
Thanks, Tony. Thanks, Elaine. You good?
Yep.
So, just want to, again, welcome our Director of Municipal Finance, Darren Tangeman. Darren, they did. You called yourself to order, right?
Yes, we did.
So Darren put together what I'd say is an excellent memo dated March 18th, 2026. It's in our packet. And it'd be good, Darren, again, some people may not be always reading the packet, but hit the highlights for us. An excellent job on this.
Thank you. First of all, there are a few corrections to, well, not corrections or updates, because some numbers have changed even since the publishing of this. So I'll go through that as I go through the budget. But consistent with the town manager's November 5th budget guidance, the staff took that information and that guidance, and departments are directed to maintain level staffing, just to kind of set the stage for this again, absorb contractual inflationary pressures within available appropriations to the greatest extent possible. There's been some significant changes in the last couple of weeks with that. Avoid using one-time revenues for recurring operations, and support the town's infrastructure, housing, wastewater, and resilience goals without undermining the reserve levels or the town's AAA credit profile. After that occurred, there were several positions that were requested. Department heads submitted as everyone knows, submitted their position justification sheets, which provided us with enough information to cost out those 2 positions. And in this budget, we have included those 2 positions. One, it would be funded by local receipts or fee-based, based on rental registration fees, and be front-loaded by free cash until those local receipts come to fruition. And then the other one would be for the assistant director position for COA, which would be funded by an override. But the budget, this budget includes both of those positions. The core budget process still remains unchanged. The town manager prepares and transmits the comprehensive budget. The select board sets the annual policy direction, and the finance committee performs its independent review and makes recommendations to town meeting. And appropriations remain the exclusive authority of the town meeting, except where statute provides otherwise. This operational budget overview and trend analysis. So here's a couple things for this. As you can see, total budget on here shows that we have a budget of $59,034,107. This is slightly different in that this is the number that comes from OpenGov, which you will see also includes 3 different items that that increases that number. Those 3 items in the budget that you have are called special articles, trust, and other uses. Those include, I think, OPEB trust. I think they include other articles. Sorry, this is me up here. So who's moving it? It's me. So I'll move it.
I assumed it was Mark.
Sorry.
Behind you.
So so you can see there. Let me get that out of the way. Pulling double duty. So 59 million there, but the actual number after you reduce those special articles, direct transfers like into enterprise funds, is actually $56,129,564,000. But what you see in OpenGov will show all of those items together. So just want to bring that up front so everyone understands. And that's about a $2,904,000 difference. But and then that's the difference. So that's when it says it's a 6.7% difference from the FY26 budget. That's where we're showing that. The largest drivers, high-level drivers for the budget are increased departmental expenses, education, employment benefits, and intergovernmental insurance obligations that we have. All right. And you can see in the chart what percentage of the budget comes from what share of the budget departmental expenses come from. It's 67%, education is about 27%, employee benefits is about 6%, and intergovernmental and insurance is about 7.6% total, with those other items included as well. Going down to the capital budget and capital improvement plan, just going over this in terms of where we're at with this. There's a few changes to this in that, let me get this real quick. The amount of free cash that we intend to use, as Mark discussed in the previous discussion on articles, is a free cash amount of $1,775,700. But what I want to talk about, that's a combined number for both application to the vehicles and equipment and facilities items within the capital budget. Let's see. Total amount that we're looking at in terms of total capital expenses in this budget, which includes the $59,625,000 that's identified for the fire rescue station, is $67,954,000 for all total capital uses. Obviously, different funding mechanisms from free cash to levy to debt exclusion. I will jump down to free cash reserves and capital financing because there was an update. We finally did get our recertification on March 12th, and that is our real number now. So DOR came to us on the 12th and recertified free cash at $4,124,634. And so at this point right now, May annual town meeting free cash use, what we have allocated right now, just for the capital items, not in addition to other articles that we also have, is $1,775,700, which you don't see up there. That's the change to that number. There are also several other items that are up for other articles, special articles. The remaining amount there, so right now we have a remaining amount, which is actually $2,348,934, which is a slight difference to that. Gives us a little more money, a little more free cash that we can use above the 3% recommended operating budget. So we have enough, I believe, to fund several of those special articles in addition to the capital items that we have on the budget. And I'll bring up the table so you can kind of see this. I wish I could. I mean, this isn't updated yet, but that's kind of the structure that I was just discussing. I won't get into the whole best practice standpoint, free cash, but what we want to try to do is achieve that 3%, and overall, we want to, between free cash and general stabilization, try to reach about a 15 to 17% reserve target for the town. And I think we're on good ground for that with this budget. In terms of debt management, I'm gonna have Scott come and talk about this. There's been a lot of questions about debt management, so we'll have a quick chat about this. What I do want to talk about, we just recently had a borrowing, and we talked to S&P about our AAA bond rating. We've had a conversation last week about our percentage of EQV that our total budget is, our total debt is, and we're within those numbers right now. We're trending right now based on the borrowing of the sewer that we already know we're going to be asking for, and the fire rescue station. We will stay within the 20% debt as a percentage of our budget, which is important for S&P, which keeps us at a AAA bond rating, which demonstrates that we're one of the most fiscally responsible towns, in municipal government. That's a good sign, and that we're within the EQV percentage of EQV for our debt. So we're meeting the two big metrics for that. That being said, I mentioned this. As you know, on the 17th of March, we had Bureau Veritas start our comprehensive facilities assessment. They're actually ahead of schedule. They already jumped in. They're already on day 4, on day 2, doing a lot of the assessments. We were in town hall today, and we also have, just to correct the name of the organization that's helping us with the sewer pro forma. It is Waterworth, not Water North. So it's Waterworth. They are developing a long-term pro forma for all the phases of the sewer implementation, and they should be complete within the next 2 to 3 months. So the thought is that we will incorporate their numbers into the numbers that we get from Bureau Veritas, so that we have a long-range, fully comprehensive finance plan, pro forma for all of our debt, that meets and doesn't exceed those metrics that we just talked about. We want to keep our AAA bond rating. Why? Because we can get good rates for borrowing, right? We want to do the best thing we can for our taxpayers, and we've done a good job of keeping it under 20%, that debt to budget ratio, and we will continue to do that, and that will be the goal of how we structure and sequence debt into the future. And we will also look at how that affects our EQV, which, quite honestly, we're not even close to that. The other piece that Scott will talk about is retiring debt, and that's the point about that the timing of the debt for the fire rescue station will coincide with several items being retired. So when you say 1,050, whatever for an increase, there will likely be several $100 reduction prior to that. So if you're looking at your budget this year, by then it won't be the same. So it's trying to keep everyone in a good spot and keep the affordability good is going to be the goal of the sequencing of the debt. So with that being said, I'll have Scott come up and talk about and kind of give a brief update from what we gave to the finance department, finance committee a few days ago in terms of our debt. Subject to questions.
Great.
If I'd stop there.
May I? Darren, before you leave,
Yeah.
perhaps you could explain and educate me. I have the Division of Local Services report
Yeah.
with the listing of the towns in Barnstable County, which lists debt service as a percent of budget.
Yeah.
And that's what you're talking about, being under 20%?
Yeah, you see it, and you look up here. So that you're looking at it from the gateway, but
Right.
the number, that schedule up there is
So by fiscal 31, we're at 20%.
19.86, correct. So that we don't want to exceed that. We don't want to exceed 20% because I think that would increase our, and it's going to be talking about, that's the point about the conversation with future debt, the library and other, at that point we want to, but that's years in the future, right? So there's going to need to be a discussion after approval of the current debt that we've talked to S&P about. So I want to bring Scott up real quick. I'm not throwing him under the bus, and so we can answer questions.
Darren, my point about that is I look at you can see I've
Yeah.
got the list in front of me, that in Barnstable, we are the town that is the second highest in terms of percentage of debt to EQV, Eastham being higher than we are. And I think that's because Eastham is having to pay for an all-new water system along with their sewer system. So I'm saying we are approaching, I appreciate, we're going up even higher.
But even
So,
with that,
and-
Elaine, though,
and-
we're still significantly below the 5% metric for EQV. We're hundreds of millions of dollars below that number. So
But that also, I think, has to do with one of the points that Scott made, Darren, which is that our EQV went from $4 billion to $6 billion
Yeah.
in 1 year. So that on paper, it looks like we can afford, all of us, huge amounts of debt. And I think where my elderly finance
Yeah.
committee is coming from is that for those of us who've been here forever, fixed incomes, however you want to put it, absorbing that level of increase in debt, yes, on paper, 20% of EQV, 15%, means that we can be carrying, on paper, can be carrying a lot more debt than the actual people who are currently living here can.
And I think that's why, rather than use that, I mean, we never want to exceed that. That's a number clear out there. I think the number to really look at is the debt as a percentage of the budget. I think that's a good metric because that means if we keep it under 20% into the future, that we can try to maintain that AAA bond rating and get the best possible rates for our borrowing. And once we, I mean, that, like I said, I've said this in a meeting before. If that goes to a AA bond rating, and we are trying to borrow for a $37 million library, that could mean as much as $1 to $1.4 million more in borrowing costs. We don't want to do that. So right now, with the trajectory that as it currently sits with the fire rescue station and the sewer that you've seen in this budget, by FY31, we're going to see 19.86%. That should give pause, but it shouldn't stop the items that we need to do based on that number is ensure that we sequence and time structure the debt into the future so that never exceeds that 20%. And I think that's going to be a part of the planning process once we get the data in from Bureau Veritas and Waterworth. Scott, are you ready?
I have
Okay.
add something.
I know you've got questions, but do you think Scott's...
But it fits what Scott's going to say.
Okay.
But, I think people need to understand that we're talking about two different things here. We're talking about what the town's economics can take and support in terms of debt. And we're talking about what some of our citizens can support given the projections that we have. So those are the two things. Sometimes we conflate these two in the discussion.
Definitely different.
So it's very definitely different. And the other thing that we have to consider is that some of these numbers are raw numbers. They're not normalized for inflation or anything, So when you say that the number is increasing for the debt, the total budget is increasing from 51 to 71, if you take something like the EQV as an inflation reduction number, you see that it's not that big. So what I'm trying to get at, we discussed this to some extent last week. We're doing a good job managing the budget. We are not doing a particularly good job managing the finances of helping some of our citizens manage their finances. And we need to have bigger discussions of that on that side outside this budget process.
Nick, I think that it's a good point. I think my point where I'm looking at the debt as a percentage of budget, I think that's more closely aligned to a normalized increase or overtime number for our debt and what our taxpayers are ultimately paying, right? I think that number is closer to that. I think that you're right, the EQV, it has such a significant increase over time based on by property values that we're seeing that this is a more accurate one. And we can probably do better, but I think with this one that, what you don't see in this and what the intent of the planning will be is to structure and sequence the debt in a way that takes into mind our taxpayers and our local citizens to make sure that it remains affordable for them. And what you don't see is the retirement of debt. When you say 1,050, I mean, there is actually retirement of debt between that time and the time that comes online. So that you won't see it. You literally won't, from today until then, you won't see $1,050 increase if we vote for the fire station. It's going to be less.
I'd also add the debt you see projected for future wastewater does not, because it can't account for it until we get the award letter, accounts for no subsidy. So that's going to be instantly lower by 25%.
Totally my point, Kevin. We don't know what we don't know.
We can make assumptions, and that's with the modeling. And again, the nice thing about the Waterworth is, because I was liaison to Water and Sewer many years ago, is they first contracted with them for the water asset replacement program that then Sue Brown has been using to do scenarios on what if usage went down by this amount, what would we have to raise rates? And now we're using that same vendor, pretty much talking to the same people, but using it for sewer. So we really have a great tool that will allow folks to say, what if, we had this debt drop off and this coming on, we could actually see that and play some iterations. So I feel very confident in terms of where we're going.
Darren?
Yeah.
As a career borrower and as a career guy who dealt with the rating agencies, I'm very worried about that 19.86. Things always come up. We're always going to have to borrow more than we plan ahead of time. It just happens because things we don't think of. And I don't think we can skirt that close to the limits.
Well, that's a good point, and some other point that Kevin wanted me to bring up is that the wastewater stabilization fund, which currently funds 100%. Well, not 100% goes to provide the operational budget for the sewer is. So, no. Right now, it's being used for that. Here's my point: is that it is going. There's not. The intent will be that it can be used for the taxpayer side in as much as 6 years. And so the thought is that $2.4 million today that we're receiving each year for the occupancy tax has which will likely escalate to some number larger than that in the future, could be used by the town to pay for debt and not have necessarily. So that would be occupancy tax from our tourist industry paying for a portion of our this debt that we're concerned about, up to probably $2.8 million of it a year. And right now, this year, we have $8.74 million. So think about that. That's something to consider.
And the other, sorry to do this, but I have to say this. The 9.86 is 5 years out.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay, so it's absolutely correct what Tony is saying, that we're cutting it close, if our crystal ball is correct. So that's a warning sign so that we can plan better.
Madam Chair.
I know they would like to get Scott Walker up here to continue explaining what's going on.
Right. I'm not sure what our topic is, frankly, because I thought we were going to be looking at the operating budget, but if I could just make one comment. Chair?
Please, I mean, it's your chair that.
I think, I appreciate the comment that Nick made. There's a number of us in town, on the committee, this committee and other committees, that are really seriously concerned about the increasing costs to a large percentage of our population. I've been doing quite a bit of data digging, and I'm sure the board's aware of this. But we have historically had close to 50% of kids in our schools that qualify for free and reduced lunch. We have 32% of our residents that have been identified as housing cost burdened or severely housing cost burdened. I talked to 8 of them this week. This is a serious concern. And what bothers me tremendously is when we make plans for the town that includes families, kids in schools, bigger school that we want, or whatever, these are all wonderful things. I would love to see families be able to live here successfully. But they're never going to get here, even as we identify lower cost housing for them, if we increase the cost to such a burdensome number. Those of us who have, power and a platform for discussing these things sometimes don't see those folks, but they're in our community, and they have concerns. The debt is one issue of a mounting big apple of costs, right? And I was going to ask as well, as we're looking at the warrant articles, I would highly recommend that not only do we disaggregate those by percentage of votes required to pass, but perhaps we need to disaggregate them in terms of what will be paid for with free cash, what will be new appropriations, so people have a real clear understanding of the costs that are going to affect their lives.
Great, thanks.
And
No, we got to let Scott.
Yeah.
again, I'd love to hear Scott again.
I mean,
He did a wonderful job last week.
If I can say, I just really want to say this because I'm a resident, I'm a father, and I have kids here as well. I'm of Orleans, right? So, I'm a homeowner here, so I pay property taxes here. I don't want to undermine because I think it's what Orleans has as a town. We're incredible fiscal discipline. We're a AAA bond rated town for a reason. I don't want to scare the community by thinking that debt is completely out of control because that's just not the case. So I want to make sure people understand that that number. I'm just as concerned about that number as everyone else. But we are on a good trajectory. We're a AAA bond rated town, right? So we're in a good place. I was never that when I was a town manager in Truro. I could never get to that number. So I want to say we should be proud of that as a town, and we're in a good place. I don't want to scare the community and think that we're overdoing, because we are working to get the data to make sure we sequence and stabilize the debt in a way that protects me and all the other taxpayers in town, right? I get it. I just don't want people to think that because we approve a fire rescue station and the sewer that things are going to get completely out of control. I see the horizon on this, and I see where we're going, and I think we will sequence this in a way that maintains that 20%. Otherwise, I mean that's going to be the conversation of this policy setting body here anyways. I don't think you're going to dismiss that. I think they hear your voices, and I think we'll get to that point. Now I'll let Scott come up and talk about where we're at with this.
Can I
That's
just
the
add
chart, yeah.
one thing before we get to Scott?
Yeah.
It's important to remember, and I've said this the last couple of years, you have to understand who the decision-making bodies are when you're related to the budget, right? The select board creates a policy, it guides the budget, but town meeting approves. And, I don't want to scare the community either, but Orleans is the second highest override passing community in the Commonwealth. That's all stuff that happened before. These are your neighbors who passed those things, not just this policy-making body. So I think it's important to understand that they can set parameters, but correct me if I'm wrong, and I'm sure Lynn will, but like, you passed a DPW station on the fly that wasn't on the plan, right? 17 million. That's the form of government that you have. You can go to the floor in a month and someone could do that. So municipal government is a little wacky in that way. We have these strange rules and these strange meetings, but like, we do our best work, we share the information, we hope for the best, and we all show up at town meeting with our best that we've all worked on, and we say this is the best that we could do. So I think it's just important to remember town meeting form of government, not select board form of government, right?
Scott?
Okay, so we had a session last week with the Finance Committee. I know that Mark was there to see it. Did any of the rest of you have an
I've watched-
opportunity?
watched it.
You all watched it, well.
Okay, so rather than rehash all that, let's put a little focus on the FY27 budget. We have a chart here that we actually did use last week, so there are some assumptions in the future years that I'll get to in a moment. FY27, we have a debt service number of 8.7 million there. That includes everything. For me, it's what am I going to pay in bills? I don't care if it came from an enterprise fund or a water fund. It's what are we going to pay out for the entire year for everything? So this is all inclusive, long-term debt, short-term debt. It's about $70,000 for the year greater than it was last year.
And Scott, sorry to stop, only because it's important. We know the 25% subsidy from Cape and Islands Water is a debt service subsidy as opposed to the past grant in the first phase. Are you accounting for that reduction in debt service from the subsidy from Cape and Islands Water Protection Fund?
In FY30, yes.
Okay, thanks.
When it will, for the next phase. So someone brought up, and we used an example the other night where I graphically showed folks a little bit of debt drop-off, as they call it, $900,000 in FY28. Typically, as you add more borrowing, you never really see that. And I can give you another example of it here that we didn't talk about the other night. For FY27, as I say, it's $70,000 more for the year than FY26. What we had come on as new borrowing in FY26 was the debt service for Phase 2 of the sewer program, $780,000 per year. And we had another additional $6 million borrowing for a variety of projects that added another $600,000 on top of that, $1.4 million. And you would say, well, how can that be? How can we have another $1.4 million in debt service, and you're telling us it's only going up $70,000 for the year? Because we experienced a debt drop-off on some older projects that are now done and paid off. That's kind of the piece that's hard to see, but it should be noted. So we're relatively flat if we go forward. 2 or 3 years are relatively flat. What we tried to layer in on this example are items that we've already authorized but haven't yet borrowed. Phase 3, which I believe will come in FY30 as a debt service item, at a 25% reduction, Kevin. And then FY31, I believe, would be the earliest we would see a fire station come on. So these future years are assumptions. There are 4 capital improvement items of 11 this year that could impact the tax bills in this 5-year window. Those are included in these future numbers. We made assumptions about where the budget may be in another 5 years. But again, those are more predictions than discussion of FY27, if you will. I think maybe in another meeting where we're going to maybe more closely evaluate the fire station or some warrant articles would warrant maybe a deeper discussion there. I don't have much more to add over and above what we discussed and you saw the other night. If you've specific questions for those of you that weren't there. You know, and Darren's correct, we're going to use this company to try and more closely align future borrowing with these debt drop-off points. You know, we're back to the discussion about, as we have been for many years, what is affordable for the residents in town, as Alice alluded to. There's a great many people that some of this is not affordable for them. Statutorily, as Nick says, it is more affordable for us, but where's the balancing point? Yeah, I don't have the answer today. None of you do, but it's always there and looming. And you can see graphically a large project like a fire station is a substantial nut for the town to take on. And other such projects, I think we'll have to you know, think a lot harder about when we want to bring them in. As I've told Darren, we're going to see substantial debt reduction in 2038 when the DPW building and the police station will be paid in full, because that was a 20-year loan. We didn't have a lot of debt outstanding at the time. We put it on a 20-year amortization, so we're about halfway there. Something to consider. There's a point where we're certainly going to look to layer something in at that stage. But budget-wise, are there questions I can field?
No, that's great. And again, as Kim is working with you guys and others on the longer-term capital planning that's in the works, will allow the opportunity to communicate that out. Because people wouldn't have known that unless you shared it like you did tonight. And I'm just amazed that 20 years have gone by for a new fire station, police station. And, you know, back to what Kim said, 17 million is what we voted for the new DPW. Think of all the benefits that has provided our community, not just COVID flu clinics and things like that, but look at what Truro is looking at in a DPW. It's double. So we have done things so prudently and correct here. We really have. So, Mev.
One thing, Scott, that might be helpful, because I think inevitably part of the fire station discussion is going to be, well, can we get rid of 5,000 square feet of this project and drop the cost? So right now, we're basing this cost on $60 million.
Correct.
Or whatever.
Yep.
It would be interesting, I think, for people to know that if for some reason you were able to slice $10 million off that project and borrow 50, what change would that make on their tax bill?
Yeah.
And what I think that will come out to be is that it's not as big a change as people might think, and that the cost, the long-term cost of making that reduction, that cut, would vastly exceed whatever savings might have been realized.
Yeah, we can certainly do that. Just a side note for Tony, this projection program that Rich Waldo was working on, is it called Water North?
Waterworth.
Waterworth? Okay, all right, I keep calling it Water North. Tony?
Yeah, I'd just like to remind everybody, as we're looking at these numbers, we're assuming interest rates are going to stay relatively calm. 7 times in my life, professional life, interest rates have gone up more than 6%, 600 basis points. And that is a big thing that we got to think about as a potential, unless you think inflation. And the Fed didn't lower rates today because they're worried about inflation.
Let me say, Tony, and again, Darren and all that put together, there's an entire paragraph on the economic climate in this memo. It is so important people read it, because my concern is we're not seeing any way to cut departments further. But even if we vote this operating budget, look at what they'll be facing. Higher diesel cost, higher oil. They put their assumptions together back in December, not even knowing the volatility that we are facing for the next year. Even if this friggin' war ends today, the pain is going to be felt for months. And I don't want to get really nasty about it, but I really have concerns for town staff, even to be able to work within the numbers, they've said they can commit to work. It's going to be a very tough year, very tough. Michael?
Yeah, just to echo that, I agree with you. It's going to be, I mean, there's one thing looking at our budget, but then there's looking at the economy. And I know we talk about it, making it affordable for people on what we can do. But the other economic pressures, I believe, that are going to be put on people is going to be very difficult in the next 5 years. And I trust the numbers that you've put together. I'd like to be a little bit more conservative. To me, AAA is very important. When I was working, AAA, I think we all remember the financial crisis of 2008. All those banks, 3 weeks before the crisis, were re-rated at AAA.
By S&P.
Yeah, by S&P. So, will that happen? Is it nice to see our property values go from $4 billion to $6 billion in 1 year? It's phenomenal. But can that go the other way at a time? Yes. We got to be realistic too. It's a very hard job to I'm surprised you're getting to 19.86 to project that out 5 years.
Yeah.
I mean, that's amazing. But we know there's going to be so many variables thrown at us as the
always,
community,
yeah.
as the world, in the next 5 years, that if we look back 5 years ago and said, can we plan, could we expected of what was going to happen to the world today? I don't think anybody would have imagined it. I think the town, I think the town manager, the finance, Scott, you guys have done an amazing job under the constraints we're at. We're going to have to take this and roll with the punches as they come in the next few years and make adjustments and do those things. But to think that this is a laid out plan, that this is the way it's going to stick, again, we had a plan 5 years ago. We're in very different times these days. And I don't see them, going right back to normal and everything just settling down. So I hear what you're saying, Alice, in regards to the community and what we can do from a tax point of view of property. But there are so many other things, as you mentioned, with gas, with interest rates that are going to be flexible, with health insurance that these people that are regular citizens are going to be having to contend with, in childcare. So I do believe we have the right people in place and that they are going to be flexible and be able to work with us during this time. But
We are by no means questioning the integrity of anybody around here.
Yeah,
We
yeah.
have
I'm not
the
saying-
world's
no,
best
I'm not saying
staff.
you are in any
And
way.
what people are doing for this community is phenomenal.
Yeah.
And in the big picture, we really don't have a lot of questions about this operational budget for just this reason. Everywhere you go in this town, one person is just as terrific, truly excellent, wonderful people. So I don't want you to think we're in any way
I wasn't,
questioning that.
my comments were not directed to the finance.
And why we're questioning this debt really is getting right to, that is a really significant amount of our tax dollars. And because we don't have the figures to look at, it's our job as a finance committee to be looking and saying, to the best of our ability, how do we defend what's going on for the community at large? And as I said, opening, you've got 5 of us, and I think if you were to take a vote right now for the 5 of us, I think we're all in agreement. Anyway, David, you had some remarks?
But if I could finish what I was saying.
Do.
I'm sorry. I
It's
didn't-
okay, it's okay. I was not directing my comments at the finance committee. We're here as a,
No,
we're
I
here as a
appreciate
joint
that.
meeting. I'm making
But
my comments
I'm
to the
saying, I want you
public.
to think in any way we
I'm
question what anybody's doing around.
Lane, I was not thinking in any way the finance committee is thinking anything. I was expressing my thoughts on the economy and the budget as we're looking at it today. So I was not taking into account
Thank you.
anything you said, so just want to be clear with you.
Andrew?
I love this level of conversation, and I think we've done a stellar job with this new staff of making more, both our risks and our benefits visible. What I'm urging us to keep talking about is, given that, to your point, Ally, that many of us are cost burdened, these taxes or the kind of proportion of taxes to our fixed incomes will keep pace with we will always be challenged to live here. These are things beyond our control. What we can control, and I believe to the point that town meeting is the ultimate decider of our investments, it goes back to what is in our control to invest in, to overall reduce. So having a net zero policy where owning and operating a building becomes a benefit to the taxpayers because we don't have energy costs that 20 years ago we would have had associated with this building makes a longitudinal sense. Building programs that allow people to stay in their homes, so that we talked about at the Affordable Housing Trust, the HESH program, so that we up that capacity to allow people to repair, income qualified, to stay and repair. So we do the big stick investments that lower the cost of operating and make us independent of those volatile markets. At the same time, the programs that are in our control that allow people to relieve one item of their monthly bill because they're getting support for those bills. The same way we look when we do housing projects, the town invests in infrastructure, not necessarily in the developer's building. And I think we have to continue with FinCom, with our other town boards and committees, to be very strategic. It's not overspending if we can predict a 10 or 20-year value to an investment. And that's critical. And you guys have done a magnificent job in helping us tease out enough information to begin to weigh those things out, so when we present to town meeting, we're talking about investment, not just cost.
Can I speak?
Yes, one quick piece of information in terms of, I think Mark Reels mentioned it. When will the public be able to drill down, go on the town's website, and literally look line by line, look at the historical? When is this going to go live, the OpenGov available?
I think in days. Yeah, we are, what we're doing is finishing up the narrative. The budget book is built. There's an upfront piece in terms of what we're putting, Mark handed out the overview sheet, putting that out there so that people can see that. There's a landing page that we want to update to make sure that it reflects budget process and where we're at in terms of our budget limitations and how we approach this budget. And so I think we're really close. We're working with the OpenGov, and we said that a couple times, but this time we are very close. In fact, we could actually bring the budget up tonight if we needed to and show you, but it's much further along than it's been at any point since we started. So yeah, I did want to say, because I am empirically minded in terms of the way we approach this, and I know just for consideration by the community members and the finance committee, and for Nick especially, since he's a Northeastern, like I am. But so the thought is that, okay, so 2026 census says that the median income for the state is $103,960. The median income for Orleans is $102,335. The thought is, like, what percent are we as terms of percent of median income to the amount of taxes that we pay? If we compare Orleans to the rest of the state, the median income of the rest of the state and the median property taxes that they pay, we're about 1.4% above the state. So I just want to make sure people understand kind of where we are in comparison to the rest of the state. It's a 1.4% above what the rest of the state pays if you look at the entire median number. So I put that there.
Wayne, I think the committee has more questions.
I think David?
I do, yeah. And our housing is pretty expensive relative to that.
It's true.
So I had questions just so I understand it better, because this is very educational for me. What are the underlying assumptions within these debt projections? So I understand you've got 0% interest rate now. Is that projected out through this projection? Is that assumed in there, or is that not?
Are we just talking sewer?
That's only SRF.
I'm talking about sewers, yeah.
Yeah, SRF.
It's a big piece.
Yes,
I'm
yes.
Yeah, no, you're right, yeah.
We're going to assume that we will qualify for 0% construction financing on the construction part indefinitely. That could change. We are going to assume a 25% subsidy from the Cape and Islands Clean Water Trust indefinitely. That may change. We hope neither will. We generally use a 5% borrowing rate, or I do on any of these, although I know we can borrow substantially lower than that now, and we haven't borrowed at 5% since 2008 or 9, but I'd rather be conservative.
Remember when prime was 20?
Yeah, well, that was a once-in-a-lifetime event.
Well-
It can happen again, I know, but I'm not gonna put 20% numbers in here for it.
I don't want you.
So those are some of the assumptions. We make assumptions on borrowing terms for the sewer. It's 30 years amortization. So yes, there are some basic assumptions that we, ballparks that we use in this regard. Try to remain a little bit higher in terms of interest rate. I'd rather have a projection, have a reality come in lower than have people say, well, your assessment was way too low. It came in way over that.
So
I'd rather it the other way.
So with a little understanding of, no, I'm just going to answer your question. So
I'd follow up.
overly conservative on the projections, but so far, in front of the state, through the state revolving fund, we have and will continue to receive 0% interest. So just,
Right. And I'm just trying to understand how we understand that to be something to rely on. I mean, for an extended period of time. How do we know that?
through wastewater management advisory, we have.
Committee?
Through the committee and
Yeah.
recommendations we make to the select board in terms of the approach to stick to our comprehensive wastewater management plan to ensure that we're focusing on the regulatory reductions and according to the plan, and we're meeting all DEP regulations, we qualify for 0%.
And that's a contractual arrangement.
It's by doing our plan. It's not a contract that we've signed a contract.
Debt that we've incurred is set.
It's locked in
not
at 0.
changeable.
It's all locked in at 0.
And what is the assumption for the construction portion versus whatever else it is? I'm not sure what that is.
Yeah,
The
so I
engineering?
would say just the construction of any sewer project qualifies for this 0%. Any other borrowing the town does, of any nature, including planning and engineering costs for sewer work, is at whatever the market bears, and for our analysis, we use a 5% assumed interest rate in that regard. The sewer construction is the only thing that qualifies for the 0% financing. Yeah, can we say with 100% certainty it's gonna be on the table with Doge and everything else for the next 30 years? I don't know. We're gonna go under the assumption it will, but I don't know.
Okay.
Will the government succeed, as they've brought up numerous times in our lifetimes, to eliminate the tax exemption on municipal debt, which means that on our last issuance, instead of being 2.6% interest, it would be 3.25 or 3.5, because the holder has to pay tax on the interest. Will it remain tax exempt forever? I don't know. There might be a greater possibility that that goes away. But we're operating under the assumption that it will remain.
That's,
Yes?
Wait, I'm not done. Yeah,
he's
just
not
have,
done.
I want to understand, I just want to understand the underlying assumptions so I understand how it's structured, that's all. And then we can move on. With the 25% subsidy, was that to pay debt service, or is that just a lump sum for the cost? I want to understand how that works.
the first 4 years of the Cape and Islands Water Protection Fund was an award. It was a grant.
Right.
Directly bought down the principal and thereby reducing all debt service. What the Cape and Islands Water Protection Fund found was we have a lot of projects going on.
Correct.
And we changed the model from a loan forgiveness or debt forgiveness model to a debt subsidy over the term of the loan. But it's still at 0% for us. And as I asked Scott about what year does that kick in our case, it's FY '30. So that phase 3, right, Scott?
Yes, phase
is
3.
assumed to be at that 25% subsidy through the debt service model.
So I understand it,
First-
correct. Can I repeat it back so I understand it? So if you have a 30-year term, you have principal payments only, 30 equal payments, you're getting a 25% subsidy of that amount.
Every single year.
Okay, that's what I, and is that a 30-year commitment each time you phase one of these in? Because it's a 30-year term?
The town opts to choose the term they wish, up to 30 years.
I mean, the subsidy. Is that,
Goes with whatever the term the town chooses.
okay. And we're assuming 30 years in these projections?
That's correct. And
Okay.
on the first two phases, it worked, past tense, the way you alluded previously. As an example, the downtown project was a cost of 60 million, and roughly, their 25% number was $14 million, so it reduced the amount that we borrowed on the 60 million to some 45 million. And then paid the debt service on that. It's gonna work differently going forward, starting with phase 3, as Kevin explained. What is the yearly debt service, and then they'll subsidize 25% of that for the duration of the loan, which these qualify for 30-year financing. That's what we're gonna do. There's no interest. Why pay it off sooner? Not costing you anything, in that regard.
All right. Thank you.
I think they had some more. Go ahead, you guys.
Scott, I just wanted to make sure that my assumption is correct. The money we borrow today at zero is zero for the entire 30 years. It can't be, that can't change because administrations change and stuff like that.
That is correct. That's my understanding. Kevin?
That's correct.
We signed a grant contract or something.
Yeah, not subject to market fluctuations, anything of that sort.
And I've been talking to Scott about this, there's always the chance, which you said you're worried about future rates. There's a chance, Scott's not really optimistic about it, that our bonds are callable. In my lifetime, as I've been a manager of utilities, we had callable bonds where we did reduce the borrowing. The rates were actually dropped, and we were able to actually reduce the borrowing costs. So there's always that chance, if interest rates drop, that we could do that as well.
Is our debt callable?
After 10 years.
Yeah, all municipal debt is callable after 10 years.
So after the 10th year of the 30-year bond, we could, if the interest rates drop, we could refund them.
Now, we talked about the police and DPW facility a moment ago. We're 10 years into repayment. Those bonds could be recalled and refinanced, but off the top of my head, I believe our net interest costs on those were right around 2.6, 2.7%.
We're good.
Which is exactly where we issued debt this last January. So unless you can save 1.5% or 2%, they advise against spending all the money to do so. So we could refinance it for no benefit. The last refinancing we did in 2021, we retired a 4.5% debt that was outstanding from 2010. Over the life of the loan, as I recall, it was some $800,000 in interest we saved by doing that. So if the opportunity is there, we certainly will.
Any other questions? Could I call on one of my members, or?
No, I think as chair, I would like to say thank you very much for having this conversation with us, and I would like to move on to talking about what we thought we were going to be here for, which is the operational budget.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay?
All right.
And I would like to open that because I would like to ask Kim and Mark one set of questions, which is, I know you have had in last year's budget, a $500,000 bucket of money with which we've done a variety of things, such as the economic development. I wonder if you could take a few moments to describe what that $500,000 paid for, and then talk a little bit about what the extra $150,000 will be for this coming year.
Town manager's budget.
So that $500,000 was the housing initiatives money that we put in the budget last year that was previously an override amount, special article. We moved the money that was in pre-K that was previously there down into an existing line right in human services. The $150,000, so Elizabeth issued a report, I don't have it here, it's very specifically, a couple times this year, about what exactly she did with every dollar of that money. She will have she's about to sign another contract to expand lease to locals, and so she's gonna encumber whatever's left in there for that program because it runs over the summer. So, but you can certainly have her in if you want to talk about that. The new 150, Amanda's here, she absolutely can talk to you about it. It's money towards economic development, which I think everybody is in favor of doing, and if you want to come up and just hit the highlights, since you're here,
Cool.
We already talked about, we heard from.
Hi, Amanda.
Hi.
Yeah. So a majority of the money in the economic development budget carries on some of the programs that we were piloting this past year. So the micro grant program for our local businesses, which was received really well by them and the community, as well as technical assistance for them, and some marketing and communications pieces as well, so we can better represent the businesses in the community.
Any other questions?
I had a couple. Alice? Yeah. You know, I want to be
Speak into
sure-
the microphone.
I want to underscore what some of my colleagues said. We really do appreciate all the hard work that's gone on here. And the explanation that we had regarding debt was incredibly informative and professional, and it was an excellent discussion. In regards to the policy established that's been reiterated a number of times in the letter from Darren, I do wonder how tightly the department heads adhered to that. And I don't fault them. But again, this is a big enchilada we're talking about. It's all of the departments, it's all of the debt, it's all of the projects, it's all of the costs to the taxpayers, not to mention, as we discussed last week, that some of the projects that we have require individual out-of-pocket costs that are significant for some taxpayers, particularly those connecting to the sewer. So there's all of these factors that are pressing on people. So I wonder where the select board landed in their discussion with the fire chief regarding overtime. The $1 million overtime that we have there is a cumulative responsibility for the town as it increases, you know, salaries and benefits for employees. And $1 million could pay for several more people. So I wonder where the select board landed on their discussion in regards to that, please.
I can answer that.
Thank you.
Only because not only did I raise it, but whether folks know it, whoever's chair actually meets on a monthly basis with both of our chiefs. It's kind of a direct report, always keeping a sense of what's going on and being aware to best support them because we contract directly with them. I've actually, and I wasn't quoted in the paper with everything I said about the overtime article because what I did say to Ryan at the Chronicle, and Ryan, if you're listening, I felt the chief was doing a good job because even though the dollar value increased, what he confirmed for us is he's not increasing the hours. So overtime is actually, you know, at a level that we do not think will increase. And in fact, we may have finally peaked. If you listen to what the chief is going through in terms of recruits, training, and the time it takes to bring on a fire as well as a EMT, it takes months for their skills. So there is definitely backfilling that has to happen, and the only way to backfill is with overtime. So I think, you know, during the discussion, the chief made it clear the hours have not increased, but because of the collective bargaining agreements and the benefits and the higher rates, those, you know, it's a multiplication. You know, X times Y equals the output. It is a little bit higher, but I really do think that the chief is working to lower the hours so that in future years, once all the crew is at full complement, I mean, as he said, half of the crew is all brand new. They are all newbies. So we're going to see this, but I think we're at a peak.
Kevin, if I could follow up on that, how critical is 3 people on an ambulance run? Because I understand some places use one in the front and one in the back, and while it's nice to have 2 in the back, I'm wondering how critical it is. And I haven't talked to Chief Deering about that.
And this is what you guys should do.
My
Invite him in.
my understanding is that he is scheduled to come to the next Finance Committee meeting to speak specifically about overtime and the justification for it. So he should be able to answer all of your questions related to the details of his staffing.
Incidentally, the 2 versus 3 is in their strategic plan. They explained why they were going for 3 instead of 2. So we can dig out that document. It's very extensive, you know.
I wondered also about the 52% increase in media expenses, mostly under other professional and technical services category. There seemed to be, you know, and I've been kind of curious about this because I was actually assigned to meet with Peter and pose the questions that we've had in regards to these, but I was told that that wasn't the process we were using this year, so that hasn't happened. So I'm just wondering, perhaps either Mark or Kim might be able to answer the increases in that department. There's quite a few of them.
Sure. I can tell you everything that's funded out of the other professional and technical services line. There are a variety of costs related to Civic Plus, which is related to our website domain and web designer, basically. The department sites, there's 3 different sites, I should say 4 different sites that are costing us $23,000. So EDC, there's going to be an economic development site. There's going to be the police. They currently have their own website. And then, Amanda, do you know the other 2?
Fire.
Okay.
I heard fire's coming in too.
They're coming under our
Okay.
Yeah. So there's those costs there. There's an accessibility module from Civic Plus that's $5,000. We're paying for a $1,000 additional Notify Me subscribers as we're getting more engagement from the public. So that's $1,000. Archive Social, which is a requirement of us using social media. We have to archive all of the posts per state law. That is $7,200. Our module for Civic Send, which is sending messages through the website, is $3,000. Civic Plus DNS hosting, that's technical, $100.
So that makes sense, Mark. Thank you.
Yeah.
So it's
There's a
contracts
list.
with various
Yeah.
software providers or web-based providers. Thanks a lot. You know, another area that I had some questions about was, I couldn't for the life of me figure out what was going on with Harbor Master and Shellfish, but it looked like there was quite a bit of change there.
Yes.
And maybe somebody could explain that, because the
So-
numbers seem sort of wonky in the budget. There was also rental fees, which didn't make an awful lot of sense.
So let's start with that so we can clarify for you and others. The Harbor Master Shellfish budget has been adjusted considerably because we eliminated the Rock Harbor Enterprise Fund. And so the expenses that were once in the Enterprise Fund budget have been brought into the Shellfish and Harbor Master budget.
Okay.
There was a
what
specific
was-
question about rental fees.
Yeah,
See if we have-
527,600.
Yes. So, look at, last year's
What are
budget was
those?
18,182, moved 8,200 from portable toilet contract. Those are the rental fees for the portable
Oh,
toilets.
interesting.
Yeah.
Okay. I think that might be, I had one other question that, it's not in the budget, but it's related. So when we were at the Orleans Elementary School budget meeting, you know, we heard, which I thought was wonderful, in a small town, it's great when you can kind of rob Peter to pay Paul. But we're not that small a town anymore. And what was happening, according to the discussion, was that the town facilities manager was using some of the budgets from other areas to do repairs and maintenance at the elementary school. And I, you know, my only concern is that as we're moving forward with the elementary school's needs and contemplating its future needs, it seems to me as though it would be really important to be sure we were really clear exactly what we're spending from any kind of town operations, personnel, or budgets.
If I can add, though.
Does that make sense?
Do know that is a town building. That's our building.
Right.
It is a Town of
I
Orleans.
can speak to it
building.
because I watched the meeting. So in the past, the town has a building and facilities stabilization fund that's X amount of dollars, let's just say $300,000. And from that money, that Ron will allocate which projects he works on and when in that year. So some of them are capital, and so beyond their $27,000 that they have budgeted for their capital, he does projects from that money that's there. That's how it had been managed in the past. Last year, we made a significant shift in putting that sort of random pot of money into the DPW budget and then into the capital in a more detailed way. It's absolutely our goal to have a itemized list, because part of the question that the Finance Committee has asked for many years, at least since I've been here, is how much additional money does the town spend towards OES that should be counted with their overall budget?
Thank you, Kim.
And my understanding is in the previous years, he had produced some reports, but this year he said he had not been asked, so he had not done it. So we, of course, immediately asked today that he is going to do that so that we can.
Appreciate
ensure.
that. Yeah, because, for the future needs. Thanks a lot.
Alice, it's good you raised that, because as we're doing the total assessment of all town facilities, this is going to be a really important topic.
Yeah.
Prioritizing those future needs. We're going to need some visibility.
I think the transparency and where the money's going is good for everybody. Thank you.
Any other questions? Then I would say let's close the joint meeting of the Finance Committee and Select Board for the operational budget. And thank you very much.
You guys.
Could I make a comment before we close? I'd just like to tell you guys that I think we have a tremendous asset in Kim, in knowing all the financing and being on top of it. I don't agree with her all the time, but I know that it's well managed.
Oh, thank you, Tony.
Well said, Tony.
Did you watch that show? Sent you? Click that.
Elaine, one thing before you adjourn, only because it is a public hearing,
I'm sorry. I think it's very important that we talk about
Yeah,
what
yeah.
has been handed out.
Yeah.
Because
Please don't
if you
jive.
don't, it's going to be confusing.
They don't jive with what we
No.
just heard.
So what you received, and it's going to look like, if you remember back to what the budget article in your town meeting warrant book had, right? So this is the exact same format. What you received with the OpenGov documentation and that budget, those budget numbers, those include numbers that are found in other articles. So there's the OPEB, 450,000 for OPEB that you find in a different article. What you have here is what your operating budget is.
These are the real
Departments-
numbers.
Well, it's
Bottom
all real
line.
numbers, but this is what your budget article is going to have. So,
But the total combined numbers for FY '27 are different here than they are in what we just received a few days ago from Darren. And the percentage, if I'm reading it correctly. It's off by, I don't know how many thousands of dollars.
56,525.
well,
Right? Or am I seeing things? I don't know. At this point, we were looking at 59.
I can tell you, I
We were
reviewed,
looking at 59,039,107 with a 7%.
yes,
change.
exactly that point.
That's
So-
OPEB.
So just to reiterate, it goes back to what I just mentioned, Alice, which is what's in that document you're holding there. The 59 million is that comprehensive total. It goes beyond just the operating expenses.
Okay.
Right, it includes, you'll see in the trust section, you'll see numbers around OPEB. Those are found in the separate town meeting warrant articles that address. This document goes to your, just your operating
the
budget for the
operating budget.
departments, your debt, the schools, those pieces.
Okay, great, thank you. Thanks for clarifying that.
Mark? That it?
Me.
Okay.
I think, unless you had any.
So again, it is a public hearing. If
I do have a question, follow-up to Mark. This is all expenses. Do we have a similar summary for the receipts?
Revenues?
I would say refer to the revenue document from OpenGov that you have received.
I don't know that we got that, did we, guys?
It was sent in an email about a week and a half ago. I don't know.
I don't think we've seen any.
During the snowstorm.
So how about this? Since we are meeting next week, we're reviewing warrant and budget again if necessary. Mark, could you just put a sub for revenues so you can see that schedule in the packet?
Sure.
Is that,
Yes, but I would, sure. I don't know how to.
You just put it in the package.
Yes, it's a 4-page revenue summary dropdown. It should say budgeted revenues.
Yeah, that was, I got it today in the package.
I sent it a week and a half ago.
You sent it on the 10th.
Okay.
okay.
Thank you.
Thanks, everybody.
Alice, I just have to ask, anyone from the public wish to comment? This is a public hearing on the fiscal year 27 budget. And nobody's raising hand in the room. Peggy, anyone online?
No hands raised?
Okay. Elaine?
Hey, all in favor of adjourning?
Yes.
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 Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Select Board, we good to move on to the next agenda? Just checking. Because I
I'm
think
just curious
a
about.
motion might be in
possible
order.
motion, yeah. I'd like to-
Darren had suggested we do a motion.
It was just a recommend. You
I
don't,
like it.
I think
Yeah,
there's
no,
still some
no.
deliberation
I
related
like
to the
it.
budget.
Gotta do it.
It may,
Mr.
may not
Chair.
need to do that.
Yeah.
Mr. Chair, with your permission, I move that the Select Board receive the Finance Director's excellent fiscal year 27 joint budget hearing memorandum dated March 18th, 2026, that we continue its review of the fiscal year 27 operating and capital budgets with the Finance Committee, and direct staff to incorporate the board's feedback into the final annual town meeting budget and capital warrant recommendations.
Moved
Second?
and second. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
500. Darren, awesome job. Scott, thank you.
Yes.
And Finance
Thank
Committee,
you.
thanks for all your independent work. All righty. Discuss scope of usage of town services. This item 10, and just so you know, it says this is inserted on our packet from the board, Select Board. It's actually Michael. I want to give Michael the floor to introduce this in terms of background, and take it away, Michael.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Yes, I know we briefly discussed this on November 19th, and it's been a few months, but I wanted to bring it back and have a discussion of deciding to move forward, especially after tonight's meeting, and really kind of looking at the data that we collect as a town and using that data to make more educated decisions and thoughtful decisions. I think that's a common practice in the world today. Data is the most important thing in the digital age. We collect it, but we don't really use it to the full extent that we can benefit the town. I believe it can make us, as we're doing efficiency studies, and this can, by using the data, we can become much more efficient of where we allocate our resources and actually save money. We do a lot of studies and a lot of plans that ask us to go forward and spend money. This would be a study and a group that would be able to show us where we can be more efficient and save money. And I just wanted to kind of see if anybody had any questions at this point and wanted to discuss it, but I don't know how in this day and age we can't be analyzing the data that we collect.
And if, again, if you were to, what do they call it, elevator speech?
Yeah.
If I bumped into somebody and said, what is this? What, you see the purpose of this in one?
The purpose is to help us define how we can allocate our resources better to make it more equitable decisions, thoughtful decisions. It's kind of like when we invest our money as a town in our finances. We go to experts and we hope they're analyzing data out there to make decisions of where to allocate our resources and our finances. We're not doing that. We're not using all the information we have as a town to make decisions. We're using a lot of anecdotal information, we're using a lot of history, which is great, and they'll always be part of that. But we are collecting all of this data, and I think you guys know in the digital age how crucial data is to any organization. And I just want to make sure we're serving our residents with all the information that we can, and being absolutely transparent. So the idea of this is to kind of put a group together. I think Kim mentioned on the November 19th, she was excited, I think, about this idea. It was very interesting in that we could probably find a data scientist for a few $1,000s. It might cost a little more than that. We have our consulting budget. I would love us just to put a small working group together and really kind of flush this out and see where the next steps are. But we continuously talk about finding ways to save and allocate our resources correctly. And we all it comes at the end, there's no go-forward plan. And this would be a plan to kind of go forward and investigate that, so.
Mr. Chair, I had a discussion with Michael about this because I think I may have misunderstood what the intent was here. I thought this was related to the RTE, which is not at all what is really happening here. And this is also a looking forward recommendation, not a digging through past data compilations. And in some ways, I think, and Michael, you can correct me because this is just my understanding, is we're really looking at aggregating information that we're already collecting, recreation information, beach information,
Call volume for police and fire.
all that sort of stuff.
Yeah, all this
which
information is
we-
currently collected.
Yeah.
Which we all see in its own
Silos.
silos, yeah. And
We don't use it as much as we
Right.
could possibly.
So my feeling about this has sort of changed, and I would be interested in this, but I have a sort of I'm a little bit reluctant at least at this point of the year, to assign this to staff, I guess, with any.
We don't do that anyway.
And so I don't know, I think, I don't mind participating in this personally, but I think it needs to be more definitive. I think we need to define exactly what we're looking for a little bit more than we have yet, but it's on the surface, I think, all information is useful, especially if you know how to sort of compile it.
Well, I just also, again, thank Michael for, the idea came up kind of as a seed or a thought back in November, and he's taken the time to kind of put a general scope together so that it can help you better understand where it's going. And, it's really nice to see this amount of thought put in a packet as opposed to just verbalizing during a meeting, and it's like, oh, it'll be a future item, and we do nothing. At least this is laying a framework of something we could really work on.
And, Mr. Chair, I would like to tie it to, because we are already collecting the data, and so when we look at service providers like the COA, we know that we need the demand for programming, or recreation, or the library, or Health and Human Services. Those outreaches have numbers that are being collected. In fact, even the MCC is changing, the Massachusetts Cultural Council. We've always had to collect data on how many people show up at Parish Park to justify, but now the increasing pressures to monetize, or where we do fees and where we provide this as service, the data will only help us grapple with that. But I'm also interested in, I think it's a higher priority at this point, because we can, since we already have the data, we can, through the town manager, ask at times for discrete usage of the data when we are trying to make decisions. And Michael very correctly, kind of when we were introducing the idea of the tax exemption, residential tax exemption, said, what about renters? What are we doing for renters? So well, that's right. And so this is about how changing our thinking more than anything else. But one of the things that I think is more time pressing for us to follow through, and data can serve this, is our commitment to our various planning documents. economic development, comprehensive plan, net zero. And how does data inform our next steps? And when do we, as the leader, even if it's delegated to staff, when does the select board take responsibility for making sure that those plans are moving forward, and what's the mechanism? So data can inform that and help us prioritize those investments, but I think we need a more discrete marriage between what data we want to make use of and how we're moving forward with committed plans.
Other board thoughts?
I have some thoughts.
Please, Kim.
I want to be clear. I think that this is very interesting and conceptual. In no way do I think the staff has time to be prioritizing this right now. And I will say it this way. I don't actually think it's too conceptual for this. It's more than just a round table. I mean, that's good. What we're talking about really needs some type of serious analysis. Like, I would absolutely prefer to research and see if there's a consultant that does this kind of work, and then bring that in and then see what we want to do with it, right? Like, we're going to supply like the data anyway from our departments to them, but like, I don't even know how to wrap my hands around this without sort of, like just imagine like me trying to have a conversation tomorrow with people who have this information. What am I asking for? What is the objective? What are we using it for? What is the timeline? Like, I would feel a lot more comfortable like maybe doing an RFQ or an RFP and seeing the types of firms that are out there, or looking to see what kind of document they could be produced, or how, like that. I would feel a lot better with that. I absolutely think there's a value in having this data to make decisions on. I honestly, this is just, I don't know yet. So, I mean, I'd like the opportunity to maybe look and see if there's firms that do this.
Sure.
That would, it would be helpful to me, because I'm not sure how to relay this to my staff exactly at this time. That. And I mean, we're about to get, I mean, I know it's only March, but we're about to be in the summer. I mean, in my mind, we're already in May, we're doing the warrant. So, I mean, like realistically, the first time we'd sit down to even have free time for a scope would probably be in the summer. And maybe at that point, we would have found a firm or something, and we could sit down with them and talk about it. Like, I think it would be fascinating, right, to see and have in front of us. So, I know Elizabeth has a lot of tools like this around planning.
Exactly.
But I don't know that they've ever gone this far. And so I think I just would like to, I don't know, find my feet with this, see what's out there first. So.
And just sort of along those lines, another useful, I think, thing to research and find out about is, are there other towns in the Commonwealth that do something like this, so that we're not creating this from scratch and are able to sort of.
Yeah, again, many of us have been religious about going to the annual Mass Municipal meeting. We interact with our peers. The only one that, again, this sprung from, and again, Michael took it and really shaped it with Orleans-specific data that would be useful, as he said, for prioritizing, was the keynote speaker we had at the One Cape Conference, which really did more valuation.
It's a separate idea, but
right.
The same idea is just
This is
because
more
somebody isn't doing something doesn't mean
right.
we're all doing
In
the
fact,
right thing. I
he
mean,
might be the
Just makes it
consultant
harder
that would say,
start from scratch.
but it doesn't start from scratch. If I can just say, in organizations all over the world, the number one thing they're analyzing is data. It's not starting from scratch. It might be for us, and we have all the data, which is the hardest thing to get. We have gold sitting with us to make decisions, and we're not capitalizing on it. It to me is crazy. We're siloed, and that's okay. But this is not a new concept in any way to analyze data and make more educated decisions. So.
Well, and if folks are using artificial intelligence every day, it's advancing.
And that's all grown by data.
But this is really right for that, Kim, to be able to be put to use, but.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like this is probably something that's coming on board in the last couple of years. It
Mhm.
probably is something that's trickled into cities. And I bet you, because we are so progressive here, we could see, I mean, funding is normally the challenge for most places, about stuff like this. So, I mean, we probably need an article, though, in the fall. No, you know what I mean?
Once
We
get
could find a
it-
firm and do a cost and see, and then see what the product would be, and if we decide that that's worth it, like, we gotta do some steps.
Yeah.
This is-
No, it's
I
good.
just,
An idea to keep.
I agree with that.
Yeah, I mean,
Absolutely.
it's,
Could we say the sense of the board is for town manager to explore that and see if we might
yes.
Can I
Kinda-
add a little note to that, to Michael's point? Again, because we have data, to maybe also be more intent about when we're looking at investments to include the data that we're already collecting to drive that decision. I mean, that's a different way of using, because I believe, like, we get the service calls numbers, we know where residents are coming to use services, and it's there. But maybe we just need to have it in our conversations differently. And so that's our capacity to call up one more variable in our discussions.
This could be powerful.
Yeah.
Really
And
could.
the only thing I would add is, when I've done things like this in the past, the one crucial thing is how the data is collected.
Yeah.
Because sooner or later, you want to take all the data and
Align.
merge it together. So if you're doing legacy systems and everybody's using a different system, it can be done. It costs more, but if we're using the same systems that the COA is using to collect data, that recreation is using, and they're all putting in the same
We're
field,
getting there.
then I don't know what we're using.
It's
And
our
that's
software.
where it's
I'm telling you, I don't think we have even, like what you're saying. I mean, when you think about something like the recreation software, you're talking about, the MyRec or whatever,
Yeah.
I mean, that is so cryptic that basically downloading it into Excel,
Yeah.
right? And so then
everybody
and then
puts
you're
in their
basically
address.
creating fields, right? So like,
Yeah.
but,
Right.
I mean, our technology as a town is pretty old school.
Right.
I mean, you know what I mean? Like, we're gonna download everything into Excel, and then somebody's gonna have to
you're gonna match
sort
the
it, and I mean, like, I think that's sort of, I think we need to see what people do, and let's, poke around a
The
bit
return
about
on
it.
investment.
Right, because I don't want us to spin our wheels.
Right.
I mean, I wanna figure out what this even is, like, what we could do with it,
Okay.
and
Thank you all.
we won't need it, I mean, even if it's about RTE, I mean, or about any other thing,
Will benefit
service
everything
delivery, or why, like, we don't need that data for a while, but, you know what I mean, that answer, but
Yeah.
we'll see.
But as we go into
Sure, we
the,
can find a firm. There's always
go-
somebody willing to take our money for something like this, but we have to find out what the value add is for us, so.
yes.
Work on it. I'll poke around. I'll assign it to somebody else to poke around in.
I heard Mike Kim's got this.
Okay.
Work on
For
it.
me,
I'm here to help
I'm
if you
poking,
want.
poking it out, I'm sending it out to
happy to
my,
help.
so many studies going on right now. People might say the backlash about studies, right? But like, think about what we're gonna get this year. Between
Facilities.
the sewer project and the facilities assessment. I mean, like, we're cranking right now with data, so.
Hey, guys, we're in the home stretch,
Yeah,
so
please.
I'm moving to Neff's favorite agenda item, the consent agenda,
Yay.
which
Move we
includes.
approve agenda item number 11.
There is a motion to approve the consent agenda. There is a second. Just a quick recap. These are license requests for one day for Snow's Home and Garden and a seasonal renewal for an innkeeper.
What innkeeper?
Well, innkeeper, there's bunches of them.
Yeah.
Hawker and peddler, common
Right.
victualler.
Yeah, they're all in the packet.
Right.
Just want to be sure everybody's comfortable with
entertainment.
the contents.
Yep.
If there are any questions on the wine and license or the innkeeper seasonal renewals, I believe, Laura, you would be the point. Okay, thank you for doing all this.
It is true.
So, any further discussion on the consent? All in favor?
Aye.
500. Thank you very much. Next item, Select Board Liaison Updates. Who would like to go first? Otherwise, I'm going to call on you. Mark, since you're on the water today. You probably have
It's fine.
water-related,
Let's see, well, Board of Health, I mean, we already heard that
Mhm.
they're ready to start sending out letters for Phase 2 hookups.
Mhm.
The debate at their meeting last week, or 2 weeks ago, was 1 year to hook up or 3 years to hook up. And I think everyone agreed, 1 year is fine. Like, we're into this process now, people know and understand what's going on. The first time around, it was difficult, the number of engineers, the number of companies you could actually build the system to your house, or, was limited, but all that's in place now, so there's no reason to extend it beyond a year. So when they send the letter
Mhm.
out, you'll have 1 year from that date to get hooked up.
May I ask? Sure. The letter, when is that? Is that going out now?
They're going to vote tomorrow.
Voting tomorrow.
I get a lot of questions. When are we going to get the letter? When we're going to get it? Because I guess they can't apply to the Aqua Fund.
They had to get substantial completion done, which
Thank you.
just got done. Once that happened, then they can send the letter out. So they're voting tomorrow to send the letter out. And I think they want to get it out at the end of March, I think,
Mhm.
right away. Let's see. Well, we're gonna meet with the schools over their budgets
Mhm.
next week. So we did have, both the elementary school and the regional school working on their budgets at their last meetings and going forward that. Planning board, we're meeting with them soon to look at
24th?
the
24th, I think.
24th.
Right, comp plan.
To look at the comp plan. Shellfish and Waterways met last night. I did not make it to that meeting, but I did have a chance to talk to Nate. And basically, I think what's germane is Rock Harbor is on schedule for completion. And the Goose Hummock bulkhead has been completed, except for one thing. There was damage to the ramp because of a boulder that was in the way of the sheet pilings that they were putting in. And so there just needs to be a repair done to the ramp, but the bulkhead itself is all done.
Excellent.
Finished off, so they're in good shape with that. They did have an opportunity to talk to a former town of Chatham employee who happens to be an Orleans resident, that is deep into all things dredging on small scales, because we're looking at a serious shoaling problem at Pawa Pond, Port Nimicut, where much of the aquaculture crew that works Pleasant Bay uses that landing for their fishery
Mhm.
activities, and it's in really tough shape. So we're looking at the potential of maybe looking at kind of micro
Mhm.
dredge project. The people that are doing the dredging, the Barnstable County dredges in
Mhm.
Chatham now, they were finally able to get back into the harbor. And I think those county people are gonna come up and take a quick look at
Mhm.
what's happening at Port Nimicut. And so that's kind of where they are.
Very-
That's all I got.
Very targeted, yes. Meth.
Conscom had a presentation given to them by the Pleasant Bay Alliance and Cape Cod Commission sort of together. And it's a coastal floodplain resilience study that they've completed and are just starting their tour of the 4 towns. And there are regulations and recommendations for wetlands regulations and things like that. So it will advance, and ultimately, I think there will be elements in that will need to go to town meeting. And the Human Services Committee is pretty much done with their work this year. Their list of applicants there was cutting that had to be done to keep within the $200,000 budget. So it might be, at least before it's too late in this budget, something to, discuss anyways for next year. And that's all.
Okay. Michael?
The only one I was traveling, but the only one I had was the Finance Committee, and I think they have been in here tonight. It was a long meeting, but I think
What's
as
the
they mentioned,
very
it was
good
very productive, so thanks to Scott and the committee. The only other thing, and I don't know if they mentioned in the Shellfish and Waterways, and I don't know if they would, but I was approached, and I don't know if, and I think town staff has, when they were doing the bulkhead at Goose Hummock, Phil Horwath from Goose Hummock is using a portion of that, on the other side of the bulkhead. And as it gets done, he's interested in discussing with the town if he could rent a portion of that area or not. And I guess it's sooner or later going to have to come to us being town land. And I don't know any of the details exactly, but they're generous enough to let us use their boat to do all the water testing in Nauset Estuary. So he reached out to me, and I just wanted to kind of put it on our radar to kind of think about if it's something we're interested in even discussing. So that's all I have.
Andrew?
Just a couple. The Affordable Housing Trust met yesterday, and it was a very engaged meeting. And a couple of things to report out to the general public, if we didn't already know, that both 107 Main and Fair are fully rented. And we'll have data about who's, I know, I knew you'd like that. And then they're fully leased. And then there was a great discussion about the future of the Affordable Housing Trust, the future of the committee, which has been kind of meshed into it, but we still have the status of the committee out there, and we will engage with them. And then in Energy and Climate Action from the previous weeks since we met, just to make people aware that the energy navigators are out there as a public resource, peer-to-peer, at the farmers market, but also in other public gatherings. And these are volunteers, local residents who are trained through Cape Light Compact, and many of them are on our Energy and Climate Action Committee. And they are there to help us look at ways to lower our consumption and the benefits that Cape Light Compact has for us, that we've all paid for. So just a shout out for them, to Martin Kulik. I can't remember Cece's last name, which is terrible. Who are the spearheaders of the Energy Navigators. Cecilia.
Buckley.
Thank you.
And there's David Jacobson has been there.
Yeah, no, yeah,
Been
they've been
hours,
there,
yeah.
but the Martin
Leo
and
Neal.
Cece are the leadership, the volunteer leadership. And the Cultural District is proceeding with robust planning for Arts Week, so look for those announcements in April. So that's it.
Only one I would have reported on, but Jenny Farber at Public Comment did the Board of Water Sewer Commissioner items, so
Kevin, is agriculture exempted from those? If you've got vegetable gardens?
farms and growing fruit and vegetables are definitely exempt.
Because that wasn't said.
Yeah, she didn't say that, but, yeah.
Commercial agriculture.
Commercial agriculture, local farming,
Okay.
water your plants, because we love to eat local. All right.
Use drip.
Yeah, drip is actually even the best.
irrigation.
One thing, it's kind of a liaison, but I just want to share that the Cape and Islands municipal leaders met last Friday, as we do every Monday, except for July and August. We heard a really, I would say, Meph was there, I think. Who else?
Was not.
Weren't they? You normally come in by Zoom, but all I have to say is the legislature is trying to jam everything at the last minute. Their formal session closes July 31st, and then they have to act on everything by year end.
Wow.
There are a number of things we need to be aware of, and I just don't want to say it. I was biting my tongue when finance was talking during the plan, but we all have got to say to legislators, when you think you're doing good things by putting burdens and changes on towns,
Unfunded mandates.
unfunded mandates,
yeah.
please, talk to us before you do these things. So I heard so many things they're working on. I'm concerned that they're not aware of what this means. Kim, you get asked all the time for staff to do more and more. and there's nothing that comes to fund that.
Listen, I love having staff.
Exactly.
Find a person for that
So-
thing. but
At
can
least
we
it's from
support it?
2.5 override,
I
right?
mean, we've
I don't
got,
want to lose people by
got-
like
we've got awesome
doubling up and
legislators.
tripling up jobs. Think of poor Amanda.
Yeah, I think they're,
Still here. Darren.
I think
Like-
they want,
Salitro's sitting there.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but I'm just saying, Amanda's literally doing 2 jobs,
Yes.
right? And
but I just, I want to have the opportunity to say to some of these folks, please think about what these acts do. So, future agenda topics.
Yes, yes, please, I beg. It came up in Affordable Housing Trust. At some point, we have some committed plans, like economic development and housing. There's a new plan going around, cultural resources. But the ones that we've already committed to, can we meet with those groups post-town meeting? Because there's some hesitancy where we are looked at as the conveners and the movers of the forward motion in the plan, and we need to understand that where we're being asked to lead and where other groups are.
So I don't want to guess what you're asking, but this is not precise enough to act on.
Oh, can we have meetings in
No,
the spring?
do me a favor.
Yeah.
Send an email to me, copy Kim, what groups, what plans, because
Agenda item, the housing plan and economic development, to meet with both of those groups sometime and just check in on plan progress.
Okay.
Let's make it that simple.
Okay, thanks.
You're welcome.
Anything else?
No.
And the only reason I asked you for that detail is folks might know Andrea's not running again, so
Yes.
I'm going to try to pull as much out between now and May. So
Yeah, no, we need to, because
you've got so much up there. So, all right, any other future?
I just,
Okay.
You're good?
the Fire Rescue Committee, right, is coming in next meeting. Right, that's important for people to know. And I would imagine that we would want to start having them in all the time,
Yeah.
coming up soon,
that will address the squeaky wheel.
to be
You guys,
forgotten.
any future?
No, I'm good.
There's no future for?
We
All
se-
right.
We seem to fill them up without me.
Yeah.
No, we do.
Possible.
All right.
Mr. Chair, at 8:32, I move we adjourn.
Moved
Second.
and seconded, all in favor?
Aye.
Thanks, everybody.